2025 to order. The City of Dawson Creek acknowledges that we are privileged to live and work on Treaty 8 territory and the traditional home of the Cree, Danese, Saulteaux, Sicanee, and Slavey First Nations. We value the Métis peoples that live and gather here. We commit to upholding the respectful relationships these nations have built with the land, and we acknowledge our responsibility to carry that forward today and into the future. First order of business, 2 delegations. 2.1, we have Michele Mobley, Literacy Outreach Coordinator, Dawson Creek Literacy Now in attendance regarding the proclamation to declare January 26th to February 2nd, 2025 as Family Literacy Week in Dawson Creek. So welcome, Michele. Nice to see you this morning. I'll read this out. Whereas Family Literacy Week is to be held across Canada from January 26th to February 2nd, 2025. Whereas improving the reading, writing, and other essential skills of all people in British Columbia is vital to the social and economic development of the province. And whereas literacy in all its forms directly impacts the ability of people in British Columbia to improve their quality of life, earn a sufficient income, participate in learning, and fully engage with their communities. And whereas families play a strong role in the literacy development of their children, and whereas family literacy programs promote a solid foundation for literacy and lifelong learning, providing an opportunity for children and families to learn together. And whereas the theme for Family Literacy Week 2025, Learn to be Green Together, encourages families to engage in environmentally friendly practices such as using less electricity, commuting together, and reusing items. Now, therefore, I, Darcy Dober, Mayor of the City of Dawson Creek, do hereby proclaim January 26th to February 2nd, 2025 as Family Literacy Week in the City of Dawson Creek, and we encourage all citizens to join me in this worthy observance. So, yeah, welcome, and it's exciting to do this, and it's always amazing to learn what you do, and I didn't know actually when I first got into this what the literacy was about and what you guys did in the community, so I've learned a lot about that, and it's pretty amazing. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, so did you want to say anything about it? Or?
Sure, why
Okay,
not?
I'll just turn this on for those that are at home listening. There we go.
At home listening, we got a big audience.
Yeah, we do sometimes. We get like 2 or 3.
That's
Yeah.
sweet. Well, first, just thank you very much for acknowledging Family Literacy Week. Today is National Literacy Day, fall second day of the week. And this year, like Mr. Mayor had pointed out, we are encouraging people to go green together this year. So looking at family activities, things like making a shopping list with your children and choosing items that have a little less packaging perhaps, or looking at ways that you can compost in your own home. Whatever that may look like for your family. Literacy is in everything that we do. You just need to find it and work with it, and it's amazing what grows from that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it all. So just shut that out. I'll sign this and get a picture.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Michele. So much.
Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So.
Thanks. Have a
You're
great day.
welcome. You too. Thank you. All right, our next order of business is 2.2. We have Isaac Hernandez, Executive Director at Northwind Wellness Center in attendance regarding the Northwind Wellness Center ARCH program update. So, morning, Isaac, and welcome. Just push that button in the middle there, and then I will. Perfect. The floor is all yours, so thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be back here and to be able to give you a brief report on what's going on at the center. I have included a couple pages there with a summary that I did my best to write. And it explains about the different areas that we've been working on. The last 3 months in particular have been quite and experience. One of the major advances that we made is the fact that we completed the funding for the new center. So as of this point, we count with what we need in order to build the center. The ground has been prepared in Puscupi and is ready for building. So as soon as the soil unfreezes, we'll be able to start the construction probably hopefully in early April, if not sooner than that. And we have also reached several agreements with different government agencies. So BC Housing, CMHC, Northern Health, First National Health Authority, and the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions. Although it doesn't exist anymore, now they just have a secretariat or something like that. But they continue to support us, and we were able to gain also some of the operating funding as well. So we have most of it in place. This is how, thank you for having that picture in there. This is how the new center is gonna be built. We had a more fancy design in our papers, as you will see there in one of the links that I have provided for you to read about it. However, the funding capital wasn't there to create or to build everything that we wanted to do. So you'll have to bear with me here. I'm colorblind, so I don't see that well. But the green part is what is going to be used by Northern Health. So the middle part right there, that area there is going to be our medical detox. It was reduced from 10 beds to 5. And the reason being is that there are new regulations for health. And now we have to have a single person per room. We cannot double up. We can put 2 persons per room, but then we have to have 2 full baths on it with everything exclusive for each person. And that is to prevent, it's part of the infection control, because we are going to be taking people coming from the streets, and they want to protect the other person that would be there. So it was reduced to 5 units as well. So all the green parts are the domain that Northern Health is going to have. The other green, the lighter one, that's what First National Health Authority is going to be using for the treatment component. So there are 10 units for that. And the yellowish part in the middle, that's all the administrative as well as the Recovery Community Center. Now, we've been blessed that with the Recovery Community Center, back in 2017, 2018, we got involved in developing the plans for this. And as a result, we had a person from the provincial health authorities representing us there. And as a result of this, the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, when it was set up, they loved the plans, and they decided to create their own. So that's how the junction, as you might have heard in Vancouver, came to be. And then the result had been so great that they decided to establish at least one junction opportunity in every health authority. And right here in the north, because we had all the plans and all the work that we have prepared for them, so they awarded us the opportunity to lead this, and we got $800,000 per year to support this Recovery Community Center. Now, this is the area where people will be able to continue with their work, with their family life, without interrupting that, going for treatment to anywhere else, and they will be able to sign up for different programs. We are still developing the service agreement with the ministry and Northern Health. We don't know exactly how it's going to look like, but we are in the process of working with that. In the blue area, that's the BC Housing and CMHC component. So we are going to have 40 units there for supportive assisted recovery housing. And BC Housing has given us the freedom to use some of those units for early intervention as well. So they will support that, and will be able to shuffle people around. So if we have, let's say, too many people in what we call it star beds, or the stabilization beds, which is the lighter green at the end, then we can move them into the housing component and then continue to work from there. So So that's how the center is gonna look like, and it came to be at this point. It's been estimated that we will spend $39 million to build that. Back before COVID, when we had the initial plans, it was said that we only needed close to 19. So it had doubled up pretty much, to build that. And now with the Trump administration and all of that, we don't know what's going to happen in terms of materials. But at this point, we have what is been estimated that will cost to build the center. So I have, at the end of the summary there, I have included 2 links, and you can check those out. And those are just promotional material that Street to Home has presented, and I included one there because I couldn't get the link to work. So I'm quite challenged when it comes to technology, so I couldn't make it work, so I decided to include the 8 pages there. This is an initiative, a fundraising initiative. Street to Home Foundation is a private organization in Vancouver, and they deal with homelessness. And they work with people that are in the street, and that's where their name comes from the Street to Home, so that's why they call it the Street to Home. And they have set up a goal to raise $800,000 for capital for this center, and that's their initiative to collect the funds. So you also have another page there before that about the budget. And that's how the money is coming through this initiative. So you will see in there that Northern Health has assigned $2 million for operations, but only $800 of that is going to be for the center. The other 1.2 is for the withdrawal management services for the 5 beds. And that part is going to be totally independent with Northern Health. We did that agreement, or we agree on that, because they had to have their nurses and all the medical personnel on their payroll, and they also had to comply with a lot of things that we weren't prepared to deal with because we are a very small organization. So this is how the project is at, and if you have any questions, I might try to answer.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Isaac, for taking the time to present to us, but just to see this project coming to fruition. It's exciting, so thank you. I will open it up first, Councillor Earl.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. And hi, Isaac. Good to see you as always. And congratulations on the progress you've made. Obviously, the increase in capital costs for what it's worth isn't something that's unique to you. It's pretty much across the board for all of us in government and public service. So a couple questions, I guess, around, so the detox component of the facility that's going to be run by Northern Health, will that, if it works as intended, alleviate some of the demand on our local acute care in the hospital? Specifically, I know we've got, we're the psychiatric care ward for the region, but a lot of people who are struggling with substance abuse end up in there maybe for observation or treatment because there's overlap between the two. Is this something that could conceivably alleviate some of those demands?
I'm not sure if that's going to alleviate or put more pressure on it, because the agreement has been drawn to the point that if a person comes totally intoxicated, that person will be moved to the hospital. And that is because of the capital component. We didn't have the funds to install oxygens and all the different stuff that we had to hook up in the walls, so to provide acute services, especially for alcohol.
So depending on their circumstances.
Yeah, so the persons will be evaluated at the emergency in the hospital, and if the person is stable enough or out of risk, they will be transferred immediately to the detox in Puskupi.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Second question, with respect to, I mean, unfortunately, there's no shortage of demand for your services right now across British Columbia. How are those who qualify for a bed being prioritized? Do they give access to people throughout the region first, and then if there's excess capacity, broaden that scope, or is it just kind of first come, first serve across the province?
At this point, with the treatment component, we are working on a first come, first serve basis. However, in the new center, we're still working on the priority sequence that we are going to use. We don't have a definite answer for that at this point.
Okay.
However, our area will have the priority, especially the Peace River Regional District. Although for First National Health Authority, we represent all the Northeast. That includes McLeod Lake, the McLeod Lake community. However, they prefer to work with the Carriers County because of their proximity there. Yeah.
So, and I guess the other question having to do with that has to do with proximity, because we got 55 beds here, and obviously we'd like to imagine that everybody who seeks treatment is going to be successful in their journey to wellness. But if that's not the case, I'm just saying, is there, for those who don't successfully complete treatment, what is the protocols for getting them back to their home base or getting them home? Because then that's kind of why I was asking about the proximity, because as things stand, we are challenged at providing adequate services to the people in the region. So having an extra 50 people in town potential, I not to catastrophize or imagine the worst. I'm just thinking, how are we accounting for and managing people who aren't completing treatment and getting them home so that they can at least be close to a support system?
Part of the intake system that we have is that they had to provide the means to return home. So people won't be stuck here in the community. They will be sent back home. And the way that it works is normally the referral worker has already a plan in place. So at this point, for example, if we have a person that relapses or doesn't comply with the program, we kick them out of the program because they are an obstacle for the rest of the group that is working on. However, in this new center, we're going to have continuous intake, so that won't be the case there. And if a person, let's say, is in treatment and is not complying, then they will be placed to relocate that person into a different part of the programming so they can catch up and continue with the program. So we're going to be doing our best to accommodate those persons so they don't fall out of the system, because that's where the major problem is across the province and across the country. But for those that decide to go somewhere else or decide to go home, they don't want to continue, then there will be a system in place for them to return home.
Okay, thank you.
From the moment that they come in, they already have either their plane ticket out of Fort St. John or their bus ticket, or they have a private person that comes and pick them up.
Okay,
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Any other questions? No, I had a few. Isaac, you did mention that once this is open, it'll be continuous intake, but what's the number of patients that you can have at one time? Because I know currently you're about 10, right?
Yes.
Every 6 weeks. So what will it be in the new facility?
For treatment, it will continue to be 10.
10.
However, we can double that up with the stabilization beds, because the stabilization process is already a part of the treatment component. So it's the time that we will be using to work with them through the process. We'll have a couple elders there. We'll have the counselors and social workers that will be, as soon as they leave the detox bed, there is another couple of weeks there that they will be in a stabilization process, and that's when we will prepare them for treatment. So the idea is that when this idea was born back in 2008, I've been working on that since then. The idea was to bring all the services under one roof, so we can support the person through the whole process. Because the main problem that we found back in 2009 was that the programs that we have everywhere are good programs. They are excellent programs. Well, there are some that don't comply, but mostly they are good programs. However, a person goes to detox and then is put back into an unsafe environment or in the streets or whatever, and there is no bed available for them to go into treatment. And that's when we lose them and they relapse, and then the cycle starts all over again. So that's what we are trying to avoid in this facility. It's going to be the first of its kind across Canada. It's very popular in the U.S. We have more than 750 programs in the U.S. like this. In Europe and Asia and Latin America is very popular, but not in Canada. And that's because the medical system has taken control of therapy and recovery and stuff. So we are trying to gain that back. Yeah. And that has been a challenge that we have encountered. For example, we did apply for a new indigenous program. We applied for a $10 million grant for the construction of this place. And it was declined to us because our program doesn't fit within their categories of priority. They were in love with the program and they wanted to know more about it, but they said, we cannot place you into any of our categories here. So the funding was declined to us because of that. Because it's a new initiative, so they are, some people are skeptical of it, but we have enough evidence around the world that this works.
It's proven successful. Yeah, well, good for you for not changing your direction to meet funding, so, yeah.
Oh, it's been tough.
Yeah.
It took me 7 years, and I said it took me, not to take all the credit, but 7 years of negotiation just to get the property. And then, as some of you know, that we got it for $1 from the Ministry of Health. And then it took us another 7 years of arguing and frictions with the former mayor. And then it had taken us several years just to put together. But in the meantime, with all the opposition that we face, more partners have been coming to the table, and the support is been great because of that.
Yeah, nice. What? It's a long time to get there. What? Obviously, a project of this magnitude, like the construction, can be. It's hard to put a pinpoint on time to be open. But is there a time that you're looking to have the facility open? Like, you know, in the perfect world, is it 2026 or 27, or is it?
Yeah, in the perfect world, we expect to be functioning out of there by April 2026.
Okay.
So one of the parts, the First Nation part, is going to be a fixed construction. So that's what's going to start immediately in April. However, the rest of the building is going to be modular.
Okay.
So we are at this point that we are trying to get $1 million to put as a deposit so they can start building the modular units. And the problem that we have is that the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions gave us $4 million for the detox component. However, we cannot access those funds until the place is built. You know, the only one that had given us the money is First Nation Health Authority. BC Housing has this, and CMHC gave us $3 million for the housing component, and that was at a donation, a contribution. Yeah. So we might be able to have access to those $3 million hopefully next month. BC Housing, who is putting down $20 million for the housing component, they have the same policy. We cannot access those funds until the place is built. However, they have a way to work through that, and they're going to create interest-free loan that we can access. We have to sign for it and provide collateral for that. And as soon as the construction is done, then the money, the contribution comes into place, and they pay themselves the loan out of that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Thanks, Isaac. Councillor Parslow.
Yes, Isaac, you talked about cost escalation and the potential for that. Do you have a contingency plan whereby if the very worst scenario emerges, that you could build a portion of this and not lose the whole project?
We don't. However, we have cost consultants out of Calgary that are working on it, Altus, and Synergy is going to be the constructing or the main constructor, and they are going into agreements where they can where the prices that they have given so far can be retained. And we have a working group out of Vancouver. I have a group of volunteers that works with me. And we are working on a contingency plan, but we don't have it in place yet.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? No? Well, thanks for coming in, Isaac, and the update. We appreciate it. And yeah.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Have a great day. All right, our next order of business, we have Krista Smith, General Manager, and Lacey Jones, the Treasurer of the Dawson Creek Curling Club, in attendance regarding the Dawson Creek Curling Club annual update. So, good morning, ladies, and welcome. You just push the button right underneath the mic, Chris. Yeah, perfect. There you go. The floor is all yours.
Okay. Good morning, Mayor Dober, council members, and city staff. My name is Krista Smith, and I am the General Manager of the Dawson Creek Curling Club, and beside me is Lacey Jones, our Treasurer. It's an honor to be here today to introduce myself and to provide you with an update on our club's activities, achievements, and financial outlook. Since stepping into this role in June 2024, my focus has been on continuing the strong legacy of the club while fostering new opportunities for growth, engagement, and sustainability. So, our financial summary for 2024 has us at a total revenue of $646,000, with key contributions from bond spiels, membership, function income, and lounge sales, along with the grants from Via Sport and the BC Community Gaming Grant. Our total expenses come to $541,000, primarily driven by wages, function expenses, equipment, contract labor, and utility costs, leaving us a net surplus of $104,599, which we have reinvested into operational reserves for future use on facility upgrades and programming to support long-term sustainability. This past year has been a pivotal one for the club. We welcomed 294 members in 2024, reflecting a 17% increase from the previous year. With significant growth in our youth programs, we successfully hosted 10 bond spiels, including 2 new events. And beyond curling, we expanded our impact by hosting 83 non-curling events, such as the 400-person reunion and a wildfire response team. For our current year, our revenue adjustments, we're seeing adjustments in our bond spiel revenue, sponsorships, and donations that are coming down to a normal level after our high celebration years. Our membership is stable. We're currently at 296 members, in line with our projections. Cost management, with the rising expenses for maintenance, labor, and equipment updates that we're doing, we're carefully managing it and marketing and investing in marketing designed to strengthen engagement and participation. Despite these pressures, I'm optimistic we'll achieve, again, a net income this year while continuing to support our community-focused mission. Looking ahead, as we plan for the future, our key goals include expanding our community engagement, enhancing membership and participation, maintaining financial stability, and investing in facility modernization and accessibility improvements. The Dawson Creek Curling Club would like to thank the City of Dawson Creek for its vital support through strategic lease agreements and infrastructure maintenance. This partnership has provided a solid foundation for our operations and allowed the club to thrive as a community hub. Your contributions have been essential to our success, enabling us to deliver quality programming, high-caliber events, and fostering a welcoming environment for all. We remain dedicated to nurturing this partnership and advancing our shared vision for a vibrant and engaged community.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you, Mayor Dober and Council, for your time and your continued support. And I would like to open up to any questions you may have.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I will open it up. Any questions? Councillor Parslow.
Do you have information concerning, or can you provide that readily, information concerning where your members live? How many are City of Dawson Creek people? How many from Alberta, Area D and Area E?
I wouldn't have the specifics available, but I can get those details to you. We do collect that at registration every year.
You do.
Yeah.
And what is the membership fee?
$357 includes your membership and 1 league registration. But most of our members have about 3 leagues that they apply for.
Say the last part again?
Most of our members play in multiple leagues.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Bonspiels, they pay an entry fee for the Bonspiels in addition?
Yeah. Normally to cover food costs or payouts or Bonspiel prizes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would be the sort of total cost then, just for participation? If you had an active curler, they took part in all the Bonspiels and leads, could it approach $1,000 a year?
So leagues are usually by yourself payments, so $357 to play a regular league. And then if you were to enter into our 3 main Bonspiels, it would cost you about $75 to $80 per player,
Okay.
making it affordable for a whole weekend.
So that takes you up to about $600-700.
Yeah, about there.
Good. I just need that information for my involvement in the gun club. Thank you.
I don't know if don't ask questions on that, so. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you both for coming today, and congratulations on a successful year. These kind of arrangements that we have with nonprofits and the interplay between public-owned property but managed privately by are always kind of different and can be challenging in some instances, but when they work, it's a wonderful result for the community, and it looks like it's working for you guys. So I guess obviously one thing that is particularly impressive is the growth, in particular among the youth. That's something I think every nonprofit, every service organization, every membership-oriented organization is always kind of struggling with, trying to find some secret sauce to keep the youth involved, to keep the membership growing. And certainly in today's world where we're all competing with a YouTube channel for people's time and attention and resources, what would you chalk that up to? Do you have a secret? Is it just a matter of going out, talking to people, getting in front of people bringing their kids, word of mouth?
So renewed partnerships with schools is one of the ones. We have a growing elementary league. We're at 62 students currently, and we can fit more. I think rebuilding relationships has been our key focus in the past year, and I think we can see it easily with our youth.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Well, thank you. And I wasn't asking that on behalf of any other club I'm in. I'm just curious. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Apollonio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nice to meet you again, Krista, and of course, Lacey. Again, thank you very much for the wonderful report, and nice to meet you last Christmas. Yeah, and just want to say thank you for opening your door to our community. Mm-hmm. It's our first time to do the curling last year. It was exciting, and I hope we can do it again, maybe in the future. And as I said, I think that's the magic. You're really opening up to everybody, even people that are not familiar with curling, and you learned a lot. Though it's backbreaking, but it's okay. And I just want to know, because last year, I think the NLC graduation happened there, which Councillor Kyle was there. Mm-hmm. Are you opening still the curling area during some low season, something like that?
For NLC?
Or even an NLC, for example, any gathering on that?
So NLC has us booked for their convocation this year. Mm-hmm. I think they're working on something else for their meet and greet afterwards, but they do have us booked for the downstairs floor. We also have a couple of larger events that are booked for 3 days at a time over the summer.
Okay, yeah. So we can book okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Councillor Apollonio. Any other questions? I had a few. I guess wanted to comment. One, thank you for coming in and presenting. There's a lots of good things in the report. I've also had the privilege of participating at the curling rink this year, and for the first time in a while. So I just wanted to thank you for the job you're doing. It's definitely a great atmosphere down there, and it's very welcoming. But it's I've enjoyed it, and you're doing a great job. So keep up the good work. So thank you to you and the board and everybody that's involved. I did the youth in here, so it says it's up 33%. What's the number of youth? I know you said it was 64 from the schools.
62 this year, but that's just
62?
our elementary league.
Okay.
We had a bunch of individual classrooms book us as well. I don't have the exact number in this paperwork,
Yeah, okay.
but we're also working on Central Middle School this year as well. For
Nice.
the last 3 months of curling.
Good job. It's nice to see all the youth down there, too.
It
When
is.
I'm there,
It makes it a curling club if you have young people in it.
Exactly. And the music that was added was a nice touch. I was like, oh, this is nice. So, thank you. I also I was going to ask too about what Councillor Parslow about the membership, if they're from the residents of the City Dawson Creek Regional District. So if you could get us that information, that would be great to know that. So,
Yes.
yeah. Perfect. Well, thanks again, and we appreciate you coming in and what you do to help provide an amazing service for our community and more so for our youth. So it's amazing. So keep up the good work.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Dober. Thank you, Council.
You bet. Have a nice day.
You as well.
See you, Isaac. All right. Our next order of business is 2025 strategic priority chart. We had our planning last week. I don't know if there's an update here. We'll see something in the near future, probably. Yeah. Any questions on any of this? No? All right. Next, late items. I don't think there's any late items. No. 5, new councillor business. Councillor Apollonio.
Thank you again, Your Worship. Just to update, we had a meeting with the first meeting for the year with the South Peace Historical Society last Monday, January 20th, 2025. And they have a new executive director, which I think will be very helpful for the association. And of course, Tuesday, January 21st, we have the first Dawson Creek Public Library meeting. They have 2 new board members. And of course, they are thankful for the city for the approved of their budget for this year. That's it.
Perfect. Thanks, Councillor Apollonio. Any other new councillor business? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. Just wanted to note that Councillor Selnick and I and yourself were able to attend the BC Natural Resources Forum there week before.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. It's all running together.
Yeah.
And just what a great opportunity it was to get out there, network, meet so many of the new ministers from the newly elected provincial government, including Mr. Adrian Dix, etc., and just to interact with the industry leaders that were there and our fellow municipal leaders from the region. It was just a great opportunity to get together. First chance this year to really put our minds together, and it was a very positive forum. There was a great vibe this year. I think it was very positive and looks well for the region moving forward. So great times.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any other new councillor business? No? All right. Next order of business 6, adoption of minutes. 6.1 minutes of the regular meeting of council held on January 13th, 2025 for adoption. Councillor Sudnick, second. Councillor Apollonio. I'll call that to vote. Perfect, thank you. All right. And one more to vote, please. Vote is closed. That's carried. Any business arising? All right, next order of business, 8 correspondence. 8.1, we have letter from Krista Smith, General Manager, Dawson Creek Curling Club, received on December 17th, 2024, regarding a request for sponsorship. I guess just before I open this up, we just wanted to get these to start coming to council so we have records of it, but this is something that we've donated to in the past, just from city swag from the economic development. So do we need a motion just to accept for information so it's on record, or do we need a motion to that we will donate something from the city?
Through your worship, if you want to make a motion that we'll donate something through swag, that would be appreciated.
Okay, thank you.
you.
I'll make that motion. Would somebody like to second it? Councillor Kempf? Any discussion? No? All right, I will call this motion. Vote is closed and it's carried. Next, 8.2, we have letter from Rotary Clubs of Dawson Creek and Chetwynd regarding a donation request for the 41st Rotary online auction, which is being held March 8th to the 16th, 2025. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I'm assuming we're looking for a similar motion. I'd like to make the motion that city staff go ahead and donate city swag on the same par as we've done in previous years.
Do I have a second? Councillor Earl? Councillor Earl?
Have we donated swag in previous years, or was it swim passes?
I think from this it was swim passes.
Swim passes,
so,
sorry.
So will we need
I seconded it, but I didn't want to interrupt, so I
Yeah,
didn't say
no.
anything.
So we'll need a motion referring to that if that's what we want to, just because that'll come out of the grant.
So through your worship, what we've done in the past is, I think, 2 recreation passes. I think it totaled was $500.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can just make a friendly amendment on the, you're fine? Okay. So make a friendly amendment on the motion to donate 2 passes.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
But I do have one quick follow-up for
Yeah, go ahead.
through you to staff. I know we brought it up before when we donate these passes, how we're tracking that they're being used. Is that something that we're continuing to do now that it's been noted, or is it just because if we're donating and it's not being used, I'd hate for it to count towards a finite grant budget?
Right. So through your worship, we donate a gift card, and then we can track the gift card when it comes back.
Cool. Good to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any other discussion? No, I will call this motion. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 8.3, we have a letter from Brenda Mathias, Membership and Special Events Director for the Dawson Creek Sportsman Club, received on January 17th, 2025, regarding a request for community services, youth vouchers, and funding. Councillor Parslow?
So I'm not on the board anymore of the Young Club, so I don't have a conflict of interest. So, and I do attend these functions here. So, if you're comfortable with me making a motion, there's several requests. One, the swim passes for the 10 youth, usually about 10. Could be 8, could be 12. And it passes for the climbing and swimming pool. And for the spouses usually number about 20. So I wondered if you would like to have 2 separate motions, or because we might get into a debate over the funding and the funding source. Or
I think I'm fine with it being in one motion, but I guess I'll ask ladies across from me what their thoughts are. Would you like 2 separate motions to deal with the passes and the funding?
Through your worship, it could be either or, whatever is easiest for council. If you want to make a motion, Councillor Parslow, regarding the 10 youth now and vote on it, and further make a second motion, you can do that, or all in one. Up to you.
Yeah.
I know. I
Flip a coin.
hate having choices. You know, it's
Put it
usually used to being directed by staff what to do.
If there's going to be complicated discussion regarding the second
Yeah.
request, perhaps one motion for each would be best.
Okay.
So I'm going to make a first motion that we give free passes for the youth delegates, for the climbing and swimming pool, and up to 20 passes for the spouses
Okay, do I have
for
a
the
second?
swimming pool.
Councillor McDonald? Thank you, Councillor Parslow. I guess just to staff, what would the cost be on 10 and 20, or is it ballpark cost?
So through your worship, I'll just have Brian take a quick look and we'll see what costs are.
Is it $7 per child?
Something like that. $200-300, that is.
Fair to say it wouldn't be over 300, probably, Ryan? Okay. 300-ish, okay.
250, 300.
Okay. All right, any discussion on that motion? No? All right, I will call that to vote. Got one more to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried.
Second motion.
Oh, you just push your button again,
Yeah,
Councillor
thank you.
Parslow. Councillor Parslow?
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Jolly good.
Well, your mic's on anyways.
Don't get smart already. It's only early morning here.
Yeah.
So I would like to move that we give support the event through funding of $2,500, which would be applied to the cost of the tent rentals
Okay. Through the grant, out of the grant
out of the grant.
funding, okay. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick, any discussion? I might add just a little bit to this. I met with a member from the committee last week, came in and visited with me. So this is a pretty exciting event for our community. It's been quite a while since it's been held here, but it's going to bring a significant amount of people here for the weekend from a Wednesday to a Sunday. I think it's minimum of 200. But it's also, it's not just for members that are traveling to participate in it. It's a community event, so community residents from the region are welcome to attend all of the seminars and all the meetings. They also have a lot of events planned. They got one out at the Gun Club on the Thursday night. They got an opening banquet on the Wednesday. They have a whole bunch of things they're doing throughout the week to bring the community together. So, yeah, very great event. And I know their ask is $5,000 here. So if we were to do $2,500 out of the grant, I'll probably look at helping them through the Economic Development Fund as well to potentially get it up to the $5,000. So, yeah. Councillor Parslow, did you have something you wanted to add to it?
No, I'm glad that Brenda's just shared with you about the annual sort of gun club. It's the biggest show, I think, in northern
The
BC.
gun show, yeah.
The gun show
Yeah.
is, and that brings in close to 5,000 people, and from all over the place.
Yeah, I think Perry said last year was 6,000 people.
Was it
brought in.
6,000?
Yeah.
It's a really big event, nicely hosted by the Ovintiv staff, and that is a big influx of people to this community.
Absolutely.
So if you take both together, it's generates a lot of activity.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a thought, as you mentioned, you were willing to top it up with the ECDEV fund already, and historically we've not used our ECDEV fund. I'm wondering, with such a short donation fund that we have, should we just take the whole 5,000 out of the ECDEV? I'm wondering if that's an option that we're willing to consider, just to protect that fund that we're using up quickly in the first month of the year.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think there's going to be some stuff coming to council in the next month, probably around ECDEV, and I think there's a huge opportunity in our community to take that maybe to the next level. So I'd like to keep the funds where they are for now and do the 2,500, because I think there might be some use for that to help build the economic development in our community, and so I'd like to keep it as is for now. Councillor Earl?
And I guess just to follow up through you to staff, your worship, minus what are we currently at prior to the 2,500 allocation for this event in the grant fund?
Through your worship to Councillor Earl, before the $2,500, you were at 2,300, which is 18% of your budget. And if we add the additional 2,500, you're at 38% of the budget.
Thank you, Melissa. Thanks, Councillor. Any other discussion? No. All right, I will call this motion to vote. Oh, do I need to Do I need to recall the vote? Yes, okay, I'm gonna recall that vote. If you can vote again, please. The vote is closed. It's carried. Thank you. Next, 8.4, we have a letter from Christine Clark, Executive Director from Community Bridge, received on January 21st, 2025, regarding a request for a letter of support for Youth Mental Health Fund application. Councillor Parslow.
I move that we write a letter of support to community, in support of Community Bridges application.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald. Any discussion?
Well, just it's self-evident if you know what's going on in the community. We have a high need for more and more trained support staff in every genre of work. So this is good to see this happening.
Absolutely. Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any other discussion? I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. All right, next we have 9 reports. 9.1, we have report number 25-001 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding property tax write-off. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I move the recommendation that report number 25-001 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding property tax write-off be received. Further, that Council approve the application to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to write off $16,833.30 in uncollectible property taxes.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor Kemp. Any discussion? I maybe had some questions just to Kevin and your team. Just realize this is from a trailer park, so the lot's held by one organization, and then each pad is rented out. So it's tough to hold people accountable for these taxes. But is there, and that's something that's brought through the ministry, right? Like they direct how that works. So I find it a little bit unfair to the residents of our community that we need to write it off, because the rest of our community is really absorbing this annually, where if you own a house and you own the property and this happens, we have systems in places that can hold people accountable, and there's some benefit to the city. So is there like anything that has been done in the past, or where we could reach out to the ministry to see if they have funding to pass these on to communities, or is there any other avenue to take moving forward that we could look at different ways so this doesn't happen?
So through your worship, what I understand is that there's no mechanism. I mean, obviously, there's always an opportunity to have a political discussion with, the minister that's responsible. Melissa indicates that this is a pretty common process throughout the province. I can say that our staff has done an amazing job over the last couple of years of we had a lot of outstanding debt in some of those areas because of the challenges to collect, because of the unique relationship between the landowner, the pad rental, and all those things. And so we've done a really good job of closing the gap on that. But it appears we still have some outstanding that is indicated in here. It's uncollectible. So.
Yeah, okay. Melissa?
To your worship, to add on that too, I think just the added information that the new water shut-off policy has also greatly reduced this amount because we're not seeing that big transfer in the utilities to those tax accounts. So
You can add it on there.
that's been a great improvement as well.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I guess through you to staff and kind of prompted by your line of questioning. Are we as a municipality able to sell this debt to debt collectors? So at the very least, this is impacting people's credit? I mean, the rationale being that if you make it enough trouble to welch on your debts, people will just pay.
I guess something probably could look into. I don't know if you'd have that answer, but yeah. Melissa?
Through your worship to Councillor Earl, we have engaged different avenues to do that. There is a commission, and then depending on the amount, it is something we can look into. In the past, we've determined in looking at the amounts and, you have the trade-off with the benefit, right?
Yeah. I mean, realistically, you're not going to recoup the money. You're selling it for pennies on the dollar. The rationale is that you're just making it more trouble for people to, it's going to impact their credit and they're going to end up getting calls from debt collectors, which is, it's punitive in that sense. It's not, if it's just a matter of collecting the money, you're not going to get the money back. It's more making it more trouble than it's worth to not pay your debt. But anyway, just a question. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Thank you, Melissa. Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, I guess this is just information because it does I concur with the mayor. This does seem a little unfair to other people. So a person who has a trailer or occupies a trailer, do they own it always or do they rent it? And the taxes, are the taxes the responsibility always of the person occupying the trailer? So there's a blend out there of rented trailers and owned trailers. Does each individual who has ownership of the trailer, do they pay the tax just on the improvements or on the land somehow?
So through your worship, the owner is going to be, whoever owns the manufactured home is going to be responsible for paying the taxes.
But the taxes, are they just on the building or not on the pad?
So as I understand it, there's two, right? So the landowner, the mobile home park owner, owns the land. They're going to be responsible for paying taxes on the land and any permanent improvements that they may have on site. And then there's the manufactured homes that rent a pad space. And correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, but they would then, the owner of that mobile home would be paying for taxes on that improvement.
So the delinquent then, I'm inferring, is just on the improvements on the
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, Your Worship, the challenge is that in a normal circumstance, this would end up in a tax sale.
Yeah.
But in these instances, I think there's probably some different rules, and also whether they're actually saleable is another thing. And because they're not fee simple property, that's probably a challenge as well through a tax sale process of actually being able to acquire.
Well, I think it adds the complication to the owner of that property too, because these homes, when they come to us, are usually I'm assuming most are at the end of their lives. So not only is there the tax bill that's left, but, the management company of that property is then responsible for removing it too, which is a significant cost. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, final thing, I do, whilst it may seem a little harsh, I think it's worth finding out about selling of this to a debt collector. But so I'm actually concurring with Councillor Earl, I guess.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow.
We can be united in our cruelty.
Yeah. Melissa, were you wanting to add something?
Through your worship to both Councillor Earl and Councillor Parslow, I was able to gain some information. So we do have one that is on this list that is in collections that we've received confirmation back that they aren't able to collect. So that is an avenue we do explore. And that also just the understanding, to confirm Kevin's point, they are taxed only on the improvements, but also all the trailers that are on this list, they are destroyed and no longer there. And so, just for clarification's sake, these have either been destroyed, like abandoned and removed by the owner of the trailer park, or either potentially removed in the middle of the night as well, because they have that ability. So, just for further clarification.
Okay. Thank you. This just sparked something else. So, say there's 100 lots there, and they obviously take a certain land piece up, and there's a tax rate that's attached to that. So if 10 of them move out and there's no tax rates coming for that 10, do the other 90 absorb that, or how does that work? Do you know what I'm saying?
So through your worship, what I think you're asking is, so you have 100 units there, 10 move out, does that affect, so again, you still got two separate things. You've got the land, that's not going to change, the assessment and the taxes collected on the land. You have 10 less mobile homes, theoretically, that you would collect, that are going to be assessed and are taxable. So that would change, but it's relatively, it's a smaller amount.
Small number, yeah. Okay. All right, any other questions? I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. It's going to take a 5-minute break. So. Council back to order for Monday, January 27th, 2025. Next order of business was 9.2, report number 25-008 from the General Manager of Operations regarding RFP 2024-11, fixed network meter reading infrastructure. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move the report number 25-008 from the General Manager of Operations regarding RFP 2024-11, fixed network meter reading infrastructure be received. Further, the Council award request for proposal 24-11, fixed network meter reading to Neptune Technology Group Canada Company, or Corporation, sorry, for $161,091.53, including the first year of the annual service agreements and all applicable taxes.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Kemp. Discussion. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. And sorry if this is a bit of a departure, but I did pop in Friday and have a quick chat with Kevin. And this is this item was something that came up around the single proponent and having to do with the type of meter we're using. I forget the specific brand name Kevin used. Neptune. and how we basically transitioned exclusively to this, and there's only X amount of service providers who are licensed to work on this or provide services for this. And that got me thinking around questions around whether we as a municipality are exposing ourselves to risk by, and I mean, it's not within our control, the industry moves in that direction, but I guess two question is, are we over-reliant on, this one brand and an increasingly shrinking and exclusive group of people who can work on them? And then the question around the concept of planned obsolescence and whether we as a municipality are mindful of the risk there if we are becoming increasingly reliant on a specific brand, and how do we mitigate that, or if there's any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so through your worship, Neptune meters have been around for decades, and we've been using them, I think, probably since the inception of meters with our community. And so you've kind of, because we've made that commitment, and typically you want to have all the same meters, when you do that, for ease of a number of things of servicing and the telemetry and everything that goes with it. So when we move to this remote read, you've kind of already made that commitment to the one supplier, which we have. And so, but saying that, Neptune is, again, large company. Don't think that they're going to disappear. Somebody may buy them out into the future. As far as obsolescence, we've already replaced all our meters once. That was probably in the last 10 years. We replaced all our meters, and we'll have to do it again in another however many years. That's just part of it. We won't have a lot of choice, which by doing that keeps you current with technology and everything as well. The benefit of this particular initiative is obviously there's some efficiencies from the reads, but really I think the telemetry and the data that we're going to get by having this and being able to pick up possible leaks or of the nature that we can help the residents catch things before they become a problem. Because right now we do reads every 2 months. And so we do a read and everything's good. 2 days later, let's just say they have a leaky toilet, they don't catch it, and it runs for 2 months before we're back. That can turn into a large bill for the property owner. This equipment, because they have frequent reads, will pick up on anomalies like that and flag them. And so our staff would then pick up the phone and call and say, hey, we've noticed all of a sudden on such and such day, something's trending differently. Has something changed? So I think that's an added bonus for us or for them.
Well, that's good news. Yeah, I mean, my line of thought on the planned obsolescence or whatever had more to do with, companies purchased by a hedge fund and they, to save a buck, got quality control, and suddenly these products we are solely reliant upon them for aren't the quality they use. So just something about how we, in a changing world, in these large interconnected systems, how we as a municipality are kind of trying to manage this or preempt these risks. But yeah, food for thought. But thank you for the discussion, and it's good to know. I know several years ago, I think when we were doing some meter replacements, the hope was we'd get the capacity to have some kind of early warning triggers in place so that people weren't ending up with $2,600 water bills and having no means of paying it. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Thanks, Kevin. Councillor Parslow?
This is triggered by the use of the word water leaks. We know we've experienced significant water leak in places such as the Mile Zero Park, or at least the allegations of that. Do we ever thought of, or do we, have meters that monitor water lines to, let's say, washrooms or sprinkler park and stuff? Because I know from past items on many meetings, there was some concern that we were losing water, right? And then there was that discovery of a fairly major leak when the pump track was being built. So do we have any meterage is tracking those sort of outdoor recreational facilities?
Yeah, through your worship, over the last number of years, we've tried to get meters into all of those types of, I won't say we have them all, but I know we've made a conscious effort to get areas metered that maybe traditionally we didn't in the past. Whether that's, I'll use an example of the RV sandy dump where there's water. Initially we didn't have metering. Sprinkler systems, irrigation systems where we now have meters installed. Because what it enables us to do is to, obviously, if there's a leak, and especially with this system coming in quicker to identify, but it also starts to quantify our and reduce our allowable loss of water in the system as a whole. Typically, you want to keep that under 10% because you've always got loss, whether it's water leaks or fire hydrant use that aren't metered. So you want to shrink that number as much and be able to identify where all that water's going. So yes, we've made an effort over the years to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Barzal. Thanks, Kevin. Any other discussion? No? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. All right, next order of business 9.3, we have report number 25-013 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2025 capital projects. The first recommendation, Councillor Parslow.
I move that report number 25-013 from the CFO, read 2025 capital projects be received for discussion.
And a second, Councillor Apollonio. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Discussion. Councillor Parslow.
Just need a bit of a refresher to solidify my understandings here. So for a few years now, we've been funding $5 million for sort of a catch-up program with road maintenance. And I think it's been used not just for road maintenance, but also for associated sidewalks. And we've seen some significant, it's been significant, it's made quite a difference. Critical to our long-term financial plan to achieve less vulnerability for anything that happens to the fair share money, I'm talking about the 70-30, is that we do not engage in any more external borrowing. This year, this type of project is being funded through internal borrowing. Now, this is my curiosity. What is the thoughts for the 2026, 2027 budget? Because we know the need, I think we know the need for this catch-up is not over. So if we're going to do this, we're going to have possibly internal borrowing again. What is the timeline for repayment of this internal borrowing? Is it a 10-year? I couldn't recall. Is it a 10, 20-year period?
So through your worship, the decision that was made on that was just to move it from capital reserves, not borrowing per se.
So we're
with a defined term.
depleting our capital. Oh.
Yes.
So borrowing to me means that we're paying it back,
Yes.
but we're not doing that.
So we are going to continue to grow our capital reserves each year. That is obviously the plan. But at some point, you have to take the money out of the capital reserves to pay for projects, and that was the decision that was made in this in lieu of borrowing because of the current economic.
Sorry, I'd assume it was paying, we were paying back this, the principal council declined to pay back the interest, but obviously I was out to lunch, in my understanding.
I don't think you can in Canada, like through CRA regulations, can you, you can't internally borrow from yourself and pay yourself interest anyways, can you?
It's done all the time.
Melissa?
Through your worship, I'd have to research that. I'm not sure if there's any restrictions on that, but I think maybe where just the confusion is occurring is what we borrowed in 2024, and then as a result of the surplus from 2023, we paid that back within the 2025 budget. So this year, within the 2025 budget, we show using reserves. Now, depending on what the surplus in the operating fund ends up being in the fiscal year 2024, we can transfer that back. But that was a report that was brought to council and a motion that was made. But within the budget, it's approved as coming out of capital reserves.
But maybe topped up depending on surplus, that will limit how much we have to pull from capital reserves.
Thank you.
So capital reserves could be essentially depleted $5 million. And so what is the plan for 2026, 2027? A repeat sort of thing?
So in regards to the paving, specifically
Yes,
to
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, I think we chatted about this some time ago, is that there's going to have to be some decisions made by council if they wish to continue that. Number one, if they do, then we need to determine how we're going to fund it. As you indicated, the need's not going to go away.
No.
But that's just one need of very many, many needs that the community has. We have many needs with facilities. We have many needs with, a number of things. So we're going to have to make that determination of whether we borrow, which, as you indicated, will any borrowing is going to hinder how quickly we can shift to the 70-30, because that servicing the debt will affect that. Or if we pull from reserves, or if we just simply shrink the capital program in other areas, that will take some work to determine the risks that are associated with not doing things. I mean, there's already things that we're not getting to because we simply don't have the capacity. We're just going to shrink the financial capacity of the organization, and hence we would have to reprioritize the projects. And whether that's maintaining the existing allotment of roads and reducing facilities and other, related works, or reducing the paving, and, we'll have to look at those each risks and determine what is more prudent.
Yeah, I accept what you're saying very much so. Just one last supplementary question to the same topic. So what does this practice, which I've fully supported and I'm very pleased with the results, how does that affect our goal related to our capital asset management plan and the financial target there? Is that in any way impeded by this practice?
Through your worship, the practice of pulling money from the capital reserve.
Yeah.
So one thing is that, we've started this year to create a new reserve specific for that asset management and that 1% extra that we're moving forward on so far. And then one could argue that by taking money from the capital reserve to renew an asset, not on one hand, yes, we're reducing our reserves, but on the other hand, we're renewing an asset that needs to be done. So depends on how we look at it.
Yeah, I again appreciate your answer. I think the goal is by 2040 something, we would have X number of dollars, right? We would be in a strong position to actually manage our capital asset stuff. And I guess what I don't understand is this, as you said, we've established this new thing, which I'm delighted with. I'm just wondering, it's not going to be extended to 2050 before we reach there by, and as you said, it's an asset, it's needed doing, right? I'm just wondering about the aspiration to meet and manage our capital asset plan. Would it be impeded if the council did this same thing next year, the year after that, without any tax levies or anything?
Yeah,
It's just a
through your worship,
conundrum
definitely
I
something that we'd have to look at and see is if we want to continue a robust paving plan at a higher level, are you able to do that? And the additional 1% is really what you're asking. And at the time when we initiated this and council did it, it was viewed as a one-shot kind of injection of capital funds to try and speed things up and get to that. I don't know at that time we ever thought it was going to be sustainable, and honestly I don't know that it is. The challenge we have is increasing costs, as we hear from everybody. We heard from a delegation earlier today. We're going to experience those same things. We're going to get less done for more money as we move forward. That's going to be an ongoing challenge for us, without a doubt.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Earl? Thank you, Worship. And yeah, just I guess to add my thoughts to what Councillor Parslow said, certainly there's trade-offs in pursuing drawing down capital reserves in lieu of borrowing. I think the trade-offs, it's much preferable to draw down capital reserves than to borrow, and we've seen based on budget projections, the amount of money that will be freed up by not having to service debt will in part over time provide us with more latitude insofar as getting more projects complete, dedicating more money to capital. But that is, it's not a short-term piece, it's long-term, but those benefits will begin to accrue. In particular, I think as the debt servicing for the multiplex drops off in 2027 or 2028. So that's something to be mindful of. And to echo Kevin's sentiment, yeah, the 4-year, it was almost regarded as kind of a catch-up given the lack of attention that had been paid, in particular to roads over the previous kind of generation. But $5 million a year is hard to sustain without either continuing to draw down capital or borrowing or neglecting potentially other priorities. But that does, and correct me if I'm mistaken, Kevin, you mentioned that we'll be updating our kind of paving priority this year as we got a new pavement assessment. So, hopefully we've made some meaningful headway on that, and that'll guide future council decisions insofar as budgeting goes. So I'm fine with the trajectory where I think we're moving in a positive direction, and that's always more important than every singular specific thing is, are you making headway? And I think we can confidently say to taxpayers that we are. I guess one last thing, and it's a bit of a departure, but something that might end up being relevant. We are potentially heading into a period of economic turbulence here in Canada. And when that happens, whether it's having to do with the pandemic or having to do with the global financial troubles in 2008, 2009, one of the things federal governments sometimes do is, in order to stimulate the economy, is provide a great deal of grant funding for, in case of, what was it, under Prime Minister Harper, the Canada Action Plan, I think it was called. And then, obviously, under Prime Minister Trudeau during the pandemic, all the funding related to that. But usually, I guess the word that'll come back to us is shovel ready. So if we were to happen upon millions of dollars in grant funding, do we have some stuff that we can move on fairly quickly, or are we going to be watching pitches go by because we don't have anything in the hopper ready to go.
So through your worship, that's always a challenge. What we're trying to do, and we are doing it in roads and in some other areas where we're trying to do the planning one year, the construction the following. What that does is that it starts to get those projects lined up. I mean, it's good practice, but it's also gets projects lined up that are designed, engineered, and all that, those pieces. So if grant opportunities came along, might enable you to take advantage of that with those projects and then use our own funding on some different projects, perhaps. It's tough on bigger projects to tie up a bunch of money in the design and engineering and planning aspects for it to sit there for the hope that something comes along one day. So it's a balance.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we want to do at this point, like, because it's open for discussion now, discuss the next 9 recommendations that are coming, or was it easier to do those individually as we go through them?
So through your worship, I think we can do it either way. I can also have Melissa just do a quick overview of the report, just to make, not that there's anything there, but if there's any, try and answer any questions, and then if there are some general questions, we can do that, and then you can go into the recommendations.
Okay. Does anybody feel the need to have Melissa give an overview?
No, I love the layout that she's presented.
Yeah.
Dealing with, I'll be able to vote for most of it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I feel the same way, so.
I like it.
Okay, well, we can move on to recommendation 2 then, so. Unless there was any more discussion, sorry. Did anybody else want to discuss? No? Okay, recommendation 2, Councillor Parslow.
I move that 55,000 be included in the 2025 capital budget for airport capital projects.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Do I have a second? Councillor Apollonio, any discussion? Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I know we have in the budget to do the security fencing in the airport contingent on grant funding. I'm just curious what the rest of council feels about committing to the security fence, whether we get the grant or not. I think when we were out there at our tour, it was quite apparent that we have a gaping hole in security at that airport, and the separation between the city works yard and the airport itself becomes an issue for the airport itself, and would really like to see that buttoned up and closed off.
Yeah. Through your worship, so there's kind of 2 aspects to that fencing. Is one is the immediate, which is there's some gaps that are allowing wildlife to enter, and I think that's really the piece that we need to do. And I've talked to Stacey and Kim about that, and to try and get that resolved in the short term without the grant, if we can. And then there's the bigger piece, which is delineating between public works and that parks, ground side, air side, which is definitely needed, but I think that's going to be a grant piece. But like I said, it's kind of step 1 is I want to try and, if we can eliminate or limit the wildlife entering. And so that's probably the first step that we'll do.
Okay. So to Councillor McDonald's question, if that grant funding doesn't come through, will that come back to council to look at how we get that? Like is it a priority to get done? So I mean, obviously you can't budget if the grant funding doesn't come, but I think what he's asking is if it doesn't, that it's still a priority of council to move that. So is that just something that will come back to council? I know we've seen it in the past where.
So through your worship, we can definitely do that. Like I say, I want to move on the first piece, regardless if we can make it work within our budgets, because I don't think it's anything that's insurmountable. The bigger piece is that delineation between the two areas. I can check in and see what the chances, if we can get any feedback on whether there's going to be any announcements on the grant, and that can determine which way we go on it.
Okay, thank you. Work for you, Councillor McDonald? Yep. Councillor Parcel?
Well, thank you for raising this. Wildlife on airfields is a safety issue. And so what's in my mind, why are we waiting to, why aren't we dealing with this now?
So through your worship, I've had the discussion, we are dealing with it, and I mean, it's something we've dealt with for decades, and so what it means is our current method of dealing with it is we go out there and we move the animals out of the area, but keeping them out of the area is a preferred option, so that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, keeping them out of the area would enhance safety, right?
Yes, absolutely. So that eliminates the need for us to go and chase animals, greatly limits how many get in there, right? Right now, we've got a gap, I think, in one of the creek crossings or something, so we just need to, like I say, tighten that up, close it up.
That's kind of where the complication comes from, right, is the creek crossing, that one corner, yeah. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. And I was just going to comment on a much better use of our staff's time than chasing animals with a truck and a quad or a truck and a side-by-side. When it could just be the animals kept out, period. And it stops us with the need to exterminate as well.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any other discussion? I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Recommendation 3. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that recommendation 3, that $5,961,201 be included in the 2025 capital budget for facilities capital projects.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick. Discussion? Councillor Earl, did you have?
No, that's fine.
Councillor Parslow?
There's just one item that I have a question about. The rest I know about. The comprehensive event and tourism strategy. I'm having a tough time understanding how that's a capital item. So can you tell me someone tell me what that's all about?
Yeah. Through your worship to Councillor Parslow. So what this is a further extension of bringing tourism back in, right? There's a pause, for lack of a better word, with tourism in that transitional period. And so what this is takes some of the work that's been done on a limited basis and creating a new marketing plan, brand strategy, et cetera. A lot of the aspects related to tourism, whether it be our strategies, the marketing plans, et cetera, are extremely dated. This also is reflected as part of your strategic priorities of a comprehensive marketing plan. I think it's was right. It's on your priority sheet as develop a comprehensive tourism marketing plan and campaigns. And so this is in response to that.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you for telling me what it's about.
Okay.
But the question you haven't answered, why is this then a capital item, not an operating item? We're not buying a tangible asset, so we're consulting with somebody.
Through your worship to Councillor Parslow. So the value of the plan and also the fact that it can lead to future capital projects needing to be identified. So we often will capitalize the planning towards something if it's going to lead to future projects, like the active transportation plan, I believe, is another example.
So it's synonymous with an architect, an engineer. Thank you. I can accept that.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any discussion? I had one question in here, just on the City Hall cenotaph design, obviously in full support of that. And we had that presentation from the squadron, the Air Cadets, about doing that. So I was under the assumption when we had that meeting with them that this was a fundraiser that they were going to look after. So I guess, one, I just kind of wanted to know where that has went with the committee, but two, because this is on here, are we going to see future costs to this in the city's budget moving forward? So, Ryan?
Thank you, Worship. Great question. So I've met with the planning committee, ad hoc planning committee.
Yeah.
We've reached out and have attended a few sessions. Really what this is these dollars are being identified for the planning work. So in terms of landscape design, concept design, et cetera, not cost to build or to do a revised monument. This is the pre-planning work to go into it, to identify what it is, what it'll look like, how much space it's going to take up, and to provide some cost estimates for us to then, hopefully next year, work with the group and either find fundraising opportunities to generate to build the cenotaph itself. But one way or the other, we need plans and a design to figure out what we're looking to do. And that's what this dollars are for.
So is that the 40,000 the whole amount, or is like that committee and the organization, are they contributing some and this is the city's portion?
No, we're sort of taking the approach that because this is going to be on city property and city's going to own it, that we have done like previous other projects, that we are going to take a bit of the ownership role of doing all the design and work. It doesn't mean that we're excluding them from the process. They'll be part of it in terms of providing input, but we, as the owner of the land, we want to, I don't want to say control, but we want to make sure that the planning and the process and all that sort of work is done. So when we do get ready to go, we have tender-ready drawings and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was only just wanted some clarification. I'm in full support of it, and I think it's a huge project to recognize those. So thank you. Other questions? Councillor Apollonia.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to ask regarding the Alaska Highway Care and Refresh, what is that for? The Alaska Highway Care and Refresh?
Oh, yes. So the Alaska Highway Cairn Refresh. So that this capital project last year, I think it was last year, we redid the sign. You're now entering the world famous Alaska Highway sign at NER Park there on the corner. But as through that work and even through previous years, that the sign is redone and looks great, but everything on the ground and around it is in really poor shape. All the brickwork is deteriorating. It's not accessible, so we're going to rip out all the concrete, or rip out all the bricks, cut out the curb, put in a letdown so you can get up with a wheelchair or someone with accessibility needs. We are looking to redoing moving some of the signs that are there, which are all pointing different directions. New landscape design as well. The two garden or tree beds on flanking that are quite old, and some of the trees are dying, and the bushes that are there, the ground cover is dying as well. So it's just to refresh that corner.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Apollonia. Thanks, Ryan. Any other discussion? All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. There was one opposed. I did not catch who it was. Councillor Parslow is opposed. Thank you. Next recommendation 4, please. Councillor Parslow.
Move that $6,066,000 be included in the 2025 capital budget for paving capital projects.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. I have a second. Councillor Sudnick. Discussion. Councillor Parslow.
I noticed in an email that I received, I think it was last week or this week, the first street from 116th Avenue to Highway 2 Have there been some problems that have delayed this, or was it just purely financial that it was put into this fiscal year rather than last fiscal year?
Yeah, so through your worship, we've had a want to pave this stretch of road probably for 10 or 15 years, but it's just been a lower priority. But we've been talking about it for a few years, and we felt it needed to get in there, so we put it in. And it's just, there's been just higher priority items that have bumped it out, I guess. So this year we want to make a concerted effort to try and get that done.
Are there slope stability issues there?
On First Street?
Yeah.
No, not slope stability. I think what needs is, it takes a lot of heavy traffic.
Okay.
It's a very wide road, and so drainage becomes an issue if we don't get the water off the road. If you don't get the water off the road, then you get soft spots and things like that. So it's paving will certainly help that and enable us to restructure it and deal with the drainage.
Just one last question, not on the list here. And I know the city does a good job with patching. You've got some equipment that certainly has improved things. The condition of the Ken Borwick Aquatic Centre car park is atrocious. There's no other word for it. Is that a patch job in spades that's needed, or because it is very bad for people's vehicles, or if they've got, as many do have, some injuries that they're in rehab for, and it's quite the jolt. I mean, it's just awful. We either should shut it off temporarily or deal with it, because it's, but you can't, I don't know you can do anything right now, but, so is that on the radar somewhere?
So through your worship, so that's in the pool parking area that you're talking about?
That's correct.
And I think it's in one of the drive lanes where...
In the middle part, yes.
So we've got a lot of parking lots that need some attention. That's one of them, and it's probably not the worst by far. You could go to the other side of the building and find that there's not really much asphalt left, or you could go to the arenas and see that it's all broken up. But unfortunately, that's a result of saving money during construction and paying for it later. Nonetheless, some of this patching, yes, we need to get to that. We can deal with that. That's not a huge project. What I will say is that that's likely to be an ongoing thing over the years, because we save money by not putting drainage in there. And so what happens is you've got water running to the middle of the road and running through there, and over time it creates potholes. But yeah, we can certainly patch that. We've got money in this capital budget to do some larger patching, which you've seen over the last few years, which I think is helpful to extend the life of some of these assets we're not going to get to. But
well, seriously, this is now moving unrelated, but I think it should be barriered. You haven't looked at it, but I think it should be put some of these barriers and no access. People can park, but they'd have to park out, just because it is very, very bad. And as I've now gone swimming again recently, I'm hearing all sorts of complaints.
Through your worship, we'll take a look.
Citizens.
Yeah, in the short order, we can probably do something temporary, but in the summer, we could do a more permanent fix.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Thanks, Kevin. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to highlight on a positive note, it looks like throughout the budget, it looks like we've improved dramatically with respect to the carryover piece, which means we're getting more projects done, but in particular, capital is almost non-existent. So I just commend you and your staff on getting those projects done. I know, juicing the capital budget with that extra $5 million a year for paving is a challenge logistically, but it's great to see them just completed and knocked off the list and on to the next one. So congrats.
Yeah,
Councillor Earl.
thank you, Your Worship, or through your worship, and staff did a great job. It was busy, but dry years. That's the one bonus of having a drought, is that construction is assisted with that.
Perfect. Thanks for bringing that up, Councillor Earl. I just had a couple of questions on the paving. I know last year we did think it was 109th, 15th to 17th, and I see that 110th is on here. Is that kind of the plan to keep moving up that way? Because I know, not necessarily maybe 111th, but lots of those side streets that get in behind there and those cul-de-sacs, those roads are, like, is that part of the plan?
So through your worship, I don't know, Devin, do you have a sense of where we're going after this year?
No. Okay, that's fine. I just seen that it was in there, so I thought I'd ask.
So through your worship, what we can do is when we come with a 5-year plan, and maybe we can bring some additional information of what we're looking at, kind of charting out, and that just as a information piece for council and the public.
Yeah, okay. On that 5-year paving plan, will the parking lots be part of that? Or can they be?
Well, it's all in the hopper. It's what comes out, and that's going to be the challenge is, so we'll have a few pieces that'll, we have to look at and try and fit the puzzle together and just how much funding we have to work with and see. Like I said, we know that there is a lot of parking lots that need love, and we've just simply just haven't had the resources to go there. We've been focusing on the roads.
Yeah.
But
okay.
You'll see farther down in this list that we're going to be tearing up, or we're proposing to tear up parts of the curling rink and that area parking lot because of doing drainage. So that's kind of phase 1, and then phase 2 would be coming in the following year to
pave it, clean it
redo
up. Okay. And then on the last one on there, 95th. So that was a 4-year plan, 94th, 95th, 96th. Is this the last year?
So through your worship, 95th, I mean, yeah, we've done that for that first chunk, so we want to try and get that second phase completed and just providing those linkages across from 17th to 8th Street. Yeah, and that's the multi-use path as well, providing those linkages so it
Good.
doesn't just stop. Yeah, and then from there, we'll have to see what's on the next year. And moving
Okay, but
forward.
that finishes up that whole 4-year plan. Okay, nice, thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Just feel I should make this comment. I mean, all these problems are not this is the legacy of a lot of money being put into 2 capital builds, the multiplex and the KPAC, which left insufficient money being used for paving. So since that time, we've been scrambling to catch up. Mm-hmm. There's a consequence to these things, and so it's. I was just sitting here thinking, well, this might reflect badly on the management. Well, no, this is a long term ago, and staff has been valiantly trying to manage things. So I don't want to be at all critical of this staff or the previous group, but it stems back quite a few years.
Yeah.
And it again, it snowballs and multiplies, and our present staff is trying to patch things up. No pun intended there.
Absolutely agree. I hope my comments weren't referring that against the
I
team here.
I was
Okay.
just thinking that the topic, and as it's being expressed, right? I think we've got improved equipment, improved patchworking capacity. The 4-year initiative, I think, was a good idea. It may have some consequences if we continue it, but residents are delighted where their area has been improved. It transforms a whole neighborhood.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's great, but it's not through, it's through lack of funding quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Sudnick?
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question on paving. Where are we at with the 100 B Avenue project?
Through your worship, that went out to tender on Friday. So we called most of the landowners that were involved in that project, so Vulcan, True North, and gave them a heads up. It went out to tender on Friday. It should be out for, I think, 3-4 weeks. It closes at the end of February. And then we'll be heading into construction for this summer.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's a 2024 project too. That's why it's not on here.
I just wanted to.
Yeah. Councillor Earl?
Why wasn't that included in carryover? before I take my compliment back, Kevin.
Through your worship to Councillor Earl. So this report details the 2025 capital projects as well as any carryover projects that required new funding.
Oh,
So
okay.
there was no new funding added to that project, but all the projects that are carryover that have no new funding are on page 66 of your budget binder.
Okay.
Whereas this really just deals with,
Supplementary funding after
new
the fact.
funding to both
Okay.
new projects and those that carry
Well,
over.
I will tentatively keep the compliment extended, but may withdraw it at a
Thanks,
later
Councillor
date.
Mark that down. Any other discussion? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, we have recommendation 5. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I move that $625,000 be included in the 2025 capital budget for sidewalks capital projects.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor Apollonio, discussion. Councillor Parslow.
Tell me about the bus stop improvement program. Given that we're reviewing transit, why are we planning spending money on a bus stop until we've made decisions around transit?
So through your worship, bus stop improvement program, $75,000, I believe. We had Ray Vance Bronson come and a few times, anyways, we've had advocates of transit come to council and advocate for better bus stops or more accessible bus stops. We did that condition assessment earlier in the year, and we identified a bunch of bus stops that really could be improved. I think I'm taking a shot here that regardless of what we look at transit, unless we completely can it, the $75,000 will be money well spent towards making our community more accessible. Even if we go to, say, change something out of this review coming this year, likely there's still going to be some form of transit for our community or some form of bus stops needed. So these bus stops we're looking at are in primary hubs, and they're in areas where likely people need to access whatever that may be. Does that make sense?
Is this improving the accessibility of some too? Because I've heard
accessibility, safety, shelters. We've applied for 2 BC Transit grants for shelters like we do every year. We've been doing that for 10 years now. It's 50 cents on the dollar to get new shelters in place to replace some of our aging ones.
Okay. Thank you, Devin. Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any other discussion? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried, 1 opposed. Councillor Parslow is opposed. Next, we have recommendation 6, please. Councillor Parslow.
I move that $3,167,000 be included in the 2025 capital budget for drainage capital projects.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Do I have a second? Councillor Kemp, discussion. Councillor Earl.
Thank you. Arenas parking lot drainage phase 1. Is phase 1 like planning, or is that actual infrastructure?
Through your worship, phase 1 is we have the drainage master plan that was done in 2013. 2013, yes, I believe. And it would be upgrading the drainage system that's already undersized, and then it would be improving the drainage catchment area in the parking lot. So we'd be taking everything out, putting it in, tying in the roof leaders, the buildings, as part of one of the reports for the buildings way back in the day on the building envelope that was recommended. And then it would be putting it all back to bed with proper drainage catchment systems, but not paving it. So the design will be this year, but the planning has been done for about a decade now.
Okay.
The construction.
Design and construction will be this year.
The design, the construction this year. Paving will be in a further phase.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Parslow.
When will we be, I know there's some, and this is not, what I say is not criticizing it, but I know that when we do some improvements, we take care of the whole thing when you do a replacement of the road, so that does include storm sewer. But one of the things that I'm looking for, there was a statement made by Kevin in a different role at that time about our storm sewer system, a major project, right? What's the strategy for dealing with it? And I respect the work that is being done, but dealing with it so that we have a fully functional storm sewer system, because climate people are saying we need to be prepared for that.
So through your worship, you're correct in that we have been using the master plan to guide us, and probably it should probably be updated due to the climate adjustments, because we saw that in our sewer master plan that we did in 2011, I think it was, that even from 2011 until when we updated it in 2019, 2020, there was, I won't say significant, but there was changes on those factors on the climate because of rainfall and whatnot. So we should probably update that. But we've been using that to guide it as we do projects typically driven by roads, because that's where the money has been focused. And in this particular case, we know we need to do something with the arenas, and so we know we need to do the storm sewer underneath it first. So I guess what I'm saying is the master plan isn't driving our capital plan, but it's complementary to a number of factors that we piece all together. We're not just going out and exclusively doing stormwater management projects per se. There are some one-offs. You'll see on the list there too, Barbary Park. That's one of our outfalls that goes 14th Street and then kind of cuts across by the disc park over to the creek. And that failed, and so we tried to do a repair, but we're going to have to completely redo that section, and it's a significant cost to do so. So we're looking at some alternatives and maybe open channel and things like that. But so yeah, we haven't been doing exclusive storm sewer projects. They've mainly been in concert with other projects.
Yeah, and I'm not criticizing that practice at all. I just get concerned, we have heard about the problem for quite a few years. When are we going to deal with it? Because I don't understand the mechanics of storm sewers. Like if you improve the capacity in one area, isn't it still being blocked off where it goes to, unless it goes into the creek or something?
Yeah.
And I'm just, if it is a problem, maybe it should have in future years, I'm not criticizing it for this year, but a higher focus.
So through your worship, you're correct, is that you hope that, and the way we look at it is you try and do the downstream upgrades so that the upstream can flow. Something that council needs to remember, part of stormwater management is going to be overland flows. You cannot, I shouldn't say you cannot, it's not practical to pipe everything. Not everything is going to go underground, out of sight, out of mind with stormwater. Typically they're designed for 1 in 5, 1 in 10 year type of events, and then anything over that is going to be running on the road. And your roads are designated channels that eventually get to creeks or rivers or wherever they go. What you want to avoid is during that process that they're not running into people's properties and those sorts of things, right? So it's not just pipe, it is roads and those sorts of things that come along with it as well.
Thank you, Councillor Parcel. Thanks, Kevin. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. Just out of curiosity, as we're talking about drainage in the arena parking lots, and we discussed lighting a minute ago, has there been any thought into increasing the lighting in the parking lots of the two arenas, since it is mostly used during the darkest months of the year?
Through your worship to Councillor McDonald. So, yes, I think that the collaboration between the two departments, the two big buckets, is that we understand that the storm area network in that area needs to be redone. But also we have grading issues. We have as you know, with the weather today, the drainage issues within the parking lots, the lighting. There's a whole wide range of items. But just like we have approached roads, right? We do all the work underneath and enhance all the other things as well. Is that part of the plan will be to enhancing or improving the lighting, the perhaps the movement in that area. What might be some more curb and gutter. It could be, there's a lot of aspects to go in that. We're going to try to take all the water that's coming off the buildings and force it into the storm pipe instead of going overland as well. So you're going to see, we should over the next 2 years have quite a bit different look and feel to that area, or improved look and feel to that area. 100%.
Thanks, Councillor McDonald. Thanks, Ryan. All right, any more discussion? I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. Recommendation 7. Councillor Sudnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Move that recommendation number 7, that $2,076,500 be included in the 2025 capital budget for water capital projects.
Thank you, Councillor Sudnick. Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Recommendation 8. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I'll move that $8,321,000 be included in the 2025 capital budget for sewer capital projects.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor Kemp, discussion. Do you have anything?
Well, I was just gonna, the sewer trunk main replacement, that's the one going along Kin Park that we're gonna potentially be tearing up some stuff and replacing it with some additional parking and stuff like that. Is that component of it included in this? Or is that just the sewer
Yeah,
piece?
so through your worship, and I'll defer to
The
Devin, but
remediation, I guess.
We're starting that first phase, starting down that design path. We've talked about, first of all, I think we need to figure out where exactly that pipe's going to go, what the best options are. And then also looking at if there's an opportunity to incorporate some parking for Ken Park as well as that.
Okay.
Devin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, the RFP for the partnership for that construction project is out. We're meeting on Wednesday to do an information session for all interested bidders, and it should close end of February again, and then we'll be into the design. So we'll be working with the contractor to figure out what the best alignment is. It may go down 110th, it may go down alternate alignment, but if it does, we'd be looking at obviously increasing and improving the amenities along that. We've heard some things about parking on 110th Ave from yourselves, so we'll look at that, absolutely.
Okay. And that, whatever else is included in that, the remediation piece that would include improving the amenities would be supplementary to this?
Yeah, it would
Probably.
be back to original or better.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think through your worship, one thing is depending on where that goes, let's just say that we choose a different alignment. Good, bad, right? Then we'll look at if, separately regarding the parking issues if it's not coordinated with this project. But right now it looks like it's going down 110th.
So is there some contingency in this number to cover, or there is, to cover the remedial? Okay, thank you. Councillor Parslow. Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, for suddenly people's voices have dropped. I didn't hear all that was said about this. So this is the sewer trunk main replacement. You don't have much. Are you suggesting that you might reroute this? Because as I understand its location, right, it flows pretty well parallel to the avenue between 13th and 8th Street. Where now we have pickleball courts and other nice courts you're really quite constrained, aren't you, about your options, or are you? I may have misheard.
Yeah.
But I sort of inferred from what I was hearing some realignment, or that could be a buzzword for moving it.
Yes.
So shed some light on that.
Sure,
for me.
absolutely. So through your worship, one of the parts of this project is working with the contractor as a partnership to look at all aspects that are most efficient and economical and make the most sense. That'll be part of the design. So I'm not saying we're moving it. What I'm saying is we're going to look at it if it makes sense to do so. Sure. And if so, why, right? We're not going to close that door. That's really what we're saying, because we know it's a big project. No matter where it goes, it's going to be challenging. It's deep. There's a lot of factors. So we're going to look at it and make sure that it's got the best possible chance of success.
Right, because we wouldn't want to be digging up the new new paved area. Now, widening of that avenue is associated with this, right? Is that included in this budget?
So, through your worship, as I indicated, assuming that project goes down 110th like it's originally intended, it doesn't get moved, there's going to be some disturbance along that edge of 110th. That's the opportunity when we go to put it back that we could then look to widening, and I think that'll become part of the project.
So is this budget amount include a contingency for that?
Yes, it includes a large contingency. And this is just phase one of the project. There's 3 phases.
Oh, what are the other phases? Sorry.
Well, this would be from 13th to 8th. The next piece would be along 8th Street from 110th to about 114th. And then the third phase would be from 8th and 114th heading easterly down 114th direction.
So how is that planned to be funded? Because if this is a $6 million touch, I'm just going to say could be an $18 million project. We don't want to borrow money to achieve our 70-30, so surely it can't all be borne from the sewer utility without some injection of higher rates for sewage.
Through your worship to Councillor Parslow, I know we have talked briefly about this before, but you are correct. There likely will not be enough within the reserve fund to fund all 3 years. Certainly depending on what reclaimed water sales are this year, we may have enough to do the second year, depending on also what the budget does come in at. But when there is borrowing that's made, this was within the utility fund, and so that is outside of the 70-30 calculation, because that's more on the operating fund, whereas this is coming out of the utility fund.
And I think this is another one of those, like Councillor Earl mentioned earlier too, about the shovel-ready projects, because this is something that was ready, and we applied for a grant for it last year, and we were denied the grant. So yeah, I'm assuming phase 2 and 3 will be the same. If some grants come up, that we'll be applying for those. So
yeah, thanks, Mathias, a reminder of that. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. Through you. Speaking of reclaimed water, we'd asked before about expansion of our reclaimed water fill station. Are we moving forward with that at all, or have we decided that it's not applicable, or?
Yeah, so through your worship, we did look at that. I got some preliminary information. So a couple things is that we don't believe that it's beneficial to move at this stage. Excuse me, we're only able to produce a certain amount. Secondly, there is possibly some permit implications to our permit for our lagoons involved with that as well. So yeah, so at this point, we're not moving forward with it. Don't feel like that it's the cost benefit is there. Plus, if there's any implications on our permit, we don't want that, because that can be a definite issue for us. Yeah. On the permitting side, you see within the list, there's the liquid waste management plan phase 1. So that's which we came to council some time ago to talk about moving forward on that, because we we have to either move forward with a liquid waste management plan or move towards compliance with the, is it the MSR, municipal sewage regulations? Yeah, and that would be very, very difficult for us to do. So, but yeah, so back to that original, at this point, we're not moving forward.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Councillor McDonald. Any other discussion? All right, I'll call this motion. Vote is closed. It's carried. There's recommendation 9, please. Councillor Sudnick.
Thank you, Worship. I'll move recommendation number 9, that $658,960 be included in the 2025 capital budget for equipment pool capital projects.
Thank you, Councillor Sudnick. Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald. Discussion. All right, I will call Councillor Parslow.
Well, just one small comment. We have a sort of a, what do they call it? In our budget practice, I thought we always charge for some vehicles, equipment replacement, and I don't see any application of revenue. And I thought that a few of these things seem as though they would be covered under that equipment replacement program.
Right, Melissa. Thank you.
Through your worship to Councillor Parslow, so you're just seeing the expense side. You are correct that the money we bring into the fund each year is in excess of the planned expenditures of $625. I know it's over 700 we bring in each year in the fund, but I don't have the exact amount right now. But you're just, we do charge the amounts out to our expenses, departments almost, to cover those.
Okay.
Right, so that could have been shown somewhere, could it not?
Through your worship, it could be something I can look at adding, I guess, into the summary background to provide clarification on that. I guess we bring in revenue for all, like PRA pays for some of these projects. So we mainly are focusing on the expense side, but if it's something that we can add to provide clarity, I can look at doing.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a small point. When I looked at it, I just thought, this is not new funds, but it's been shown as new funds because we already have some funding, right? Do you see what I'm trying to... I'm not in any way being critical. I'm just sharing my thinking process, right?
Yeah, no, it's a...
Yeah, so through your worship, I mean, that funding all comes from the same place. You know, the projects above, in the general, come from the same area that this funding comes from. You know, to some degree, it either comes from PRA, which some can go to the equipment, or it comes through transfer between your taxes and moving over.
I thought
but we can show that.
Carryover from previous years applied to this, right?
Yeah.
So that's, so we do have carryover for capital.
Yeah.
I recognize these are capital items, so.
So we can show the equipment pool.
I don't know.
Yeah, just so you can see. I mean, as Melissa indicated, I mean, we charge the operational budgets, and then that funds into the equipment pool to help replace the equipment. But it's another aspect, another area of our assets that we could spend more on for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Thanks, Melissa and Kevin. Any other discussion?
Through your worship, for clarity, I did find the confirmed amount, and so we transfer in $735,000 each year, with the intended purpose that we do try to build up reserves for when we have those bigger projects or pieces of equipment, like a grader or something larger. But that's the amount that gets transferred in each year.
Thanks, Melissa. Any other discussion? I'll call this motion. Vote is closed. It's carried. Just going to take a quick 2-minute break and we'll come right back at it. To order. So next order of business is 9.4. We have report number 25-014 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2025 Draft 2 budget. Councillor Kempf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 25-014 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2025 Draft 2 Budget Report be received for discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald? I'll just call that to vote. I'm just calling the discussion part to vote. Yeah, mine is too.
Okay.
Just came back. Yeah.
Still waiting on a vote? Oh, vote is closed. It's carried.
It's come back now.
All right, any discussion? Melissa?
Through your worship to council, I'm not sure if anyone would like a quick overview, but I did want to point out that this draft 2 report is coming a meeting earlier than last year. So you'll see the changes are quite minimal, but last year with draft 2, we had the confirmed PRA amount, as well as also confirmed year-end numbers, that there was another additional review that was done at that time as well. So, but I just wanted to explain the timing with that you'll see the PRA come in draft 3.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Any discussion on this? No? All right, we can, Councillor Earl.
Sorry, thank you. Just with respect to the $485,000 shift, so I think I understand why that is, but could you explain under the capital reserves there, or capital project increases?
Increases.
Yeah. So it's just.
Through your worship to Councillor Earl, so these are additions to the capital projects. Is there a specific project?
So those are the ones we voted on to approve?
Yes, these are, they were included in the capital report,
Okay.
but the 485 is additional funding that has been added since draft 1. So these aren't
Okay.
the total cost of these projects. These are just new funding that was added.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification, sorry.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Other discussion?
So what are we discussing? Sorry, the computers came back. We voted on recommendation 1, right?
Yeah, which is just discussing and
Do you
then,
have a move? Oh, so we're just discussing it, right?
yeah, just discussing and then we'll go into recommendation 2 if there's no more discussion on this, so.
Well,
Did you want to push your button, Councillor
sorry.
Parslow?
it's
Councillor Parslow?
not really contained within here, and you know that maybe you've done this, and I apologize. I really do. It doesn't matter anyway, because I know it's available to me. But one piece of information I always like to see and have some what's the word, confidence, not confidence, that I know it because I can use it, because I have a lot of people who are really get after me about taxes and stuff, right? That's fine, they're all buddies. What is the impact of the proposed tax rate? And is this coming up later? So I apologize. On the different homeowners we have at the median, at the certain percentiles. This may be untimely, but I'd like to have that information sometime.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Melissa?
Through your worship to Councillor Parslow. So at an average assessed home of $287,000, a 6.5% increase equates to an additional $127 per year on the municipal portion of the tax bill. I can give you the total amount. I'm just it's letting me scroll, but the wrong way. But I can confirm, there it goes. So the total annual impact is $262, with $173 of that being related to the municipal portion. That is based off of the rates for the PRRD and the school tax from 2024, as the 2025 rates aren't released yet.
Okay, the 173, the municipal part, was tied to what homeowner?
An average home
average.
value of $286,712.
Oh, that was, I thought, 127.
No, 170.
173.
173 for 286,000 assessment.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. I went ahead to quickly try to pull from a presentation that I'm currently working on that isn't yet complete. So sorry, I have two different videos. I will have to get that back to you.
That's okay. I just like to have it in my hip pocket, okay? Sometime. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow.
And through your worship, I think that's maybe some FAQs that we could get some information
Out.
for everybody, just that way, it'd be easier if you do get questions on some of these particulars. We'll get that.
Good to release with
Yeah,
communications.
that is directly, it is from the public consultation spreadsheet or presentation. And I know I have it someplace else, but
Okay.
the internet seems to be down, so inability to access files.
My question was going to be around that, noting that we do have our first public budget consultation coming up at the next council meeting on the 10th. And if we as councillors would have an opportunity to review the information and the kind of handy examples that Councillor Parslow is seeking prior to being questioned by the public, so we could familiarize ourselves with them. But since you seem to be working on that, I assume it is forthcoming, and thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Anything else? Well, all right, would somebody like to put a recommendation 2 out there? One of the three options, or I guess any other? There's a third, council direct staff to seek clarification. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move the council approve the 2025 Draft 2 budget, which includes $8,000 to support the Urban Senior Services Program in 2025. Further, that funding in future years be considered within the annual budget process. And finally, that staff be directed to contact the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living to provide a presentation to council on the program's outcomes in 2025.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Sednick, any discussion? Councillor Earl?
So I'm fine to support this. I do have, obviously, and as I've highlighted before, some reservations around, are we dipping our toes into something that should be better addressed by the provincial government? But if we are going to ask for reporting, I know in the initial presentation from the society, there were a number of things that I wasn't able to get clarification on at the time. Obviously, they don't do any kind of means testing or income verification. And while I appreciate people's desire for privacy, my hope is that in the reporting they're providing to us as a consequence of this $8,000 would take into account the distinction between low-income seniors and people, I don't want to use the word free riding, or people who maybe aren't necessarily in need of these supports, but are taking advantage of them because they're there. I don't think that's why most people are paying taxes or wanting to support initiatives like this. We want to help those who are in need and who don't have other means at their disposal. So, but otherwise, I'm fine to support this, reservations notwithstanding.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Councillor Parslow?
Well, being one of the free riders, this program is supported in the regional districts through taxation, which was passed through a referendum with the framework that it is income, your personal income is not a determinant of whether you get service. It's been extremely well received. And the thing I liked about it is that it's supported as a result of a referendum.
Mm-hmm.
I am very nervous. I mean, I used to be a secretary-treasurer for that organization for years, but I'm wearing clearly my council hat here. What is the $8,000 achieving? Do you know how much Bruce is planning to put into this? Tumbler Ridge? I don't know what $8,000 would do. You're just putting your little toe in, whittling it little. I would suggest, I need clarification. What is $8,000 achieving for our urban, as we're calling the urban seniors? And I think this is something that if you need to know is going to cost you. If people start, you do it for some, you don't have to do it for lots of people. Changing its framework will be fiercely fought by everybody in the rural area and who it was designed for. The framework is good. I don't think that it would be accepted any changes as per Councillor Earle's perspective. But can someone tell me what $8,000 does for the urban seniors before I go on?
I don't have the greatest memory, but from her presentation and meeting with them, it's just a portion of what it helps for the rural residents, the rural aging residents. It's also, there's multiple different organizations that help fund it rurally. So it's not just $8,000 completely from the city. I know, and I'm not...
Vouchers.
Yeah, I can't speak for all of them, but I know one other for sure that gives us the same amount. Plus there's lots of local residents and businesses that support it as well, so... Yeah, so this is just to help with it, so. But I don't remember the presentation exactly, it's just from what I got from that and meeting with her.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah. Any other discussion? It's right there, Councillor Parslow. Council asked.
Yeah, that's for the city as a whole.
It's just what the society requested, $8,000 a year to subsidize the program. I know rurally it's, it's substantially more than that, but I mean.
It's in the millions.
Millions. It's up there.
So I'm going to have to vote against this.
Okay.
I'm in support of the budget, but not this.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? No? Everybody's clear on what they're voting for? All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. One opposed, Councillor Parslow. All right, next order of business 9.5, we have report number 25-021 from the corporate officer regarding appointment of bylaw enforcement officers. Councillor Earle.
I will move the recommendation that report number 25-021 from the corporate officer regarding appointment of bylaw enforcement officers be received. Further, that BC SPCA employee Ajith Chandran be appointed as a bylaw enforcement officer for the city of Dawson Creek. And finally, the appointment of former BC SPCA employee Sarah Harris be rescinded. And I hope I got that name correctly. Apologies if I didn't.
Thank you, Councillor Earle. Do I have a second? Councillor Kemp. Any discussion? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next order of business, 10 bylaws. 10.1, we have report 25-016 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4597-2025 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Parslow.
Move the report number 25-016 from the Deputy Corporate Officer, the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4597-2025 be received. Further, the Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 4597, 2025 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Do you want to comment to that or? No? Okay. Councillor Earl?
I'd just like to take this opportunity to once again reinforce to the public that we're not raising fees and charges for the goal of making a profit. There are two ways we pay for your services. That is through general taxation and through fees and charges. If we don't raise fees and charges, the cost to provide these programs and initiatives don't decrease. They continue to go up. They're subject to the same inflationary pressures as everything, labor, materials, insurance, etc. So if we were to not raise fees, that would just mean more money coming out of general taxes to pay for them, which would be reflected either on your tax bill as an additional increase or result in less capital infrastructure maintenance and upgrading and building, which is the trap we ended up in the previous generation. So out of an interest to avoid that same pitfall, we do now have a scheduled annual increase that is tied to CPI increases in the hopes that we can avoid sticker shock where possible and maintain stable funding for these services that people rely on.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Yeah. Any other discussion? No. All right. I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. Next order of business, 11, Mayor's Business, 11.1, Mayor's Updates. First, I just wanted to touch on the RCMP. Obviously, our community has faced some activity the last few weeks, and I first want to give a shout out to our local RCMP for their efforts to make our community a safer place. They've done an amazing job for a long time, and we've seen a lot of wins from the results of their work and our community's work the last while. So with the recent current spike in shootings, really, it's definitely impacted the community and how we feel about safety, but also it's very it's disheartening, and it kind of hits home when you hear of an officer that's been shot at in a vehicle. So it brings it into perspective really quick. So, but I did want to just bring this up as there's been a lot that has happened. And I also really want to thank our staff sergeant and the whole team at the RCMP for what they do day in and day out to make our community a better place, because we appreciate it, and it's not always easy what they do, and this shows that. So also want to thank all the provincial RCMP and all the support the community's had over the last 10 days. There's been some significant wins, and that's a combination of all of them, and a lot of those come directly from the members that are on the ground here. And getting the support. I also had a call last week from the inspector from the North District, just to really communicate that they're here to support us, and they're sending all resources up here, and they did. It was very clear. The other thing I did, I thanked him as well for their media releases to the public, because I think that helps versus being quiet. It's sure a lot nicer, and you hear it throughout the community to know what's going on. And they were pretty clear. I mean, they were as clear as they could be, and the inspector said to me that it's big for him, the communication part. So their focus is to get as much out to the community as they possibly can without affecting any of their operations. But I just wanted to touch on that. Also, we hear it and see it, whether we're council or the city team here. Our community safety is a number one priority for us, and every decision we make is about our community as a whole, and it will continue to be, and grateful for the way things have worked out on many fronts from this last 10 days. And we'll continue to work with our, local detachment and provincial and North District and in ensuring that our community is a safe place. So, second, New Year's baby. So baby Wilhelmina Dorothy was born on January 5th, 2025 to parents Billy Cowie and Dawson Bennett. Wilhelmina is their first child, and as the family lives in Tumbler Ridge, the New Year's baby presentation will be made to the family at the February 3rd council meeting for the district of Tumbler Ridge. So the first year that I've done this, that the baby is from, Tumbler Ridge. But the exciting part about it is, they're in the South Piece. We're all in this together. It's about recognizing that. The exciting part is we're going to be in Tumbler Ridge on February 3rd for their council meeting. So the two municipalities are going to present together jointly, which is kind of a huge win in my eyes, because it's always been the city of Dawson Creek that's done it, but we're jointly partnering on it. And so I'm looking forward to that, and just obviously one, welcoming the baby and congratulating the parents, but one, to work with Mayor Kakauka and his team of council up there. I'm looking forward to that. And just another thing to show just the collaboration in the South Piece, that we work together. So BC Natural Resource Forum in Prince George, I won't touch too much on it. I did want to, Councillor McDonald did earlier today, so I just wanted to, thank Councillor Sudnick and Councillor McDonald for their commitment to going to this conference and representing our community. They do an unbelievable job, and it really showcased there, and I got to see it firsthand in the relationship building. So thank both of you for your efforts. It's very much appreciated for our community. But I do echo everything Councillor McDonald said. It was, sometimes I question going to these, I'll be honest, because it's not always, a positive thing you're hearing, but it was a really good spin. Right from Premier Eby speaking to meeting the ministers, there was just, there was some hope for the Northeast in BC. So it was, I think it added to that in all the industry and, everybody that attended. So it was a great event. So, yeah. So thank you both. Seniors Hall lunch presentation with Northern Health. I did this last Monday. What an amazing thing. I went with two ladies from Northern Health to the Seniors Hall, and they just did a presentation, which they did for the Seniors Roundtable here. I thought it was for us, but on the new hospital project. So there must have been 150 to 200 in attendance, and it was 2.5 hours was there, but it was great. There was tons of dialogue. It was good for Northern Health just to get out in front and walk through the whole hospital and answer every question pretty much everybody had. Not all answers people wanted to hear, but they answered them, and with the direction they're getting and where the hospital's going. So, I just wanted to, thank obviously the Seniors Hall for hosting it, and for all the residents that came out, but also to Northern Health for getting in front of it. I thought it was great, and they do it a lot. So it was a great couple hours. Strategic plan review. I won't touch too much on that. We had our strategic plan review last week with council and city team, and just kind of went through, halfway through our 2 years in our strategic plans. So I just kind of went through it. There's going to be a report coming in the near future. Just a couple things that are going to be tweaked on it and moved around and added and deleted, and that will come to council. I wanted to touch a little bit, I had a meeting with Apex Security. So this is just, I know they've sent emails out to all of council before, but it's just a private security company that some municipalities are using to help with whether it's Bylaw or RCMP. And so I just wanted to give a brief overview that Kevin and myself met with them just to kind of understand a little bit what they offer. And, I don't know where it'll go from them. It's a pretty substantial cost. They offer a good service. I've seen a lot of wins in some of the communities that they are at. But I think with community safety where it is, and being a thing that we've been dealing with for a couple of years here, anytime somebody approaches like that about a potential solution, I think it's good to just look at it and see if there's any opportunities. So, any questions on any of that? No? All right, I will, 11.2, if somebody wanted to put this recommendation forward, I can speak to it. So, Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the proposed motion that council authorize the transfer of the Community Awards program back to the City of Dawson Creek, further that the event be funded by the Economic Development budget.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. So I have a second, Councillor Apollonio. I'll just speak a little bit to this. So one of the things, I wasn't one of the first things we dealt with as a council, but one was about bringing the community awards back to life and really having them as the sole purpose of just recognizing our community individuals, our community leaders, and really showcasing them. And Community Futures took that on for the first couple of years, and it was a huge success. We've seen it in both of them. I think the first one attendance was 150, second one was well over 200. And the feel for those that were there, it was unbelievable. It was all about community, about growing. So I had some dialogue with Community Futures. Part of their bit of struggles of doing it is was that they operate in a lot of different communities. So if this is something that they're going to do for one community, they kind of have to offer it to all communities, and that would be a struggle for them with resources for personnel. So so that was the discussion. So we brought this forward. Since then, we've had some discussion with some organizations in the community that are very excited about this, and there's some potential partnership in moving forward and taking this on. So we'll leave it at this for now. If this gets approved, once we have that next dialogue, we'll bring that back to council and just kind of share on the next steps of it. But it's important, you know, for myself, and I believe I speak for everybody at council, that we continue the momentum this first 2 years has built and grow it, because it was a true showcase to our community. So yeah, any questions, Councillor Earl?
Thank you. I guess one comment and one question. So obviously, to your point, I think for the couple of years they were doing it, Community Futures demonstrated what it could be. Mm-hmm. And I think knowing the potential and seeing how valuable it is to the people that attend it, and I think just the broader community as far as inspiring civic spirit. It's a good thing, and we want to keep it going. So I'm fine with it. It's disappointing that Community Futures is not going to continue, as I think they did a great job, but I understand organizations, priority shift and whatnot, and so does capacity. I presume in taking this back over, any work they've done around, previous years' files, whatever they have is going to be coming back to the city and in our possession as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to own that work moving forward.
Had that conversation, and we originally gave them $10,000 as seed money to get it started, and a lot of that was to that came with building that database and the whole format of it. So yeah, they said that all of that will come with to us.
Okay. And then, like you said, next discussions go from, is this something you're funding and we put out, we go ask for a bid for someone to manage an event? Are we expecting staff to put it on themselves?
No.
Or are we going to partner with another community organization that's analogous to Community Futures?
I think, well, without digging more into it right now, but initially it will be partnering with another community organization. It's very close to self-sufficient too. The funding for this event is
at
minimal.
This point,
yeah, Councillor McDonald and myself have been fairly involved with it from the conception of it, with all the meetings and stuff. And yeah, it's there shouldn't be
a huge hit to the budget in order to sustain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion, questions? Oh, Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. No real questions. I just want to reiterate what an important event this is quickly turning into for the community, a celebration of our champions, those that are making a true difference in the community. It quickly, through the leadership of Community Futures, turned into one of, if not the premier event of the year for this community. And it has traction. It's going to be successful for many years to come. And it's great to see everybody come out and celebrate our amazing community champions, whether they be volunteers, business, entrepreneurs, whatever. Just great to get out there and celebrate them.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing feeling when you're sitting in that room with that many people that are, and you look around and see all those community leaders. So thank you. Other discussion? No? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Kevin, did you want to give an update now, or did you want to? Yeah, go ahead. Next order of business is 12, Chief Administrative Officer Operational Update.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a couple quick updates. As always, give you a little update on our water situation. I would characterize it as stable. The continued release from Bear Hole has maintained our water levels at the intake just steady. So that's good. I mean, it's right at the, just a little bit below the weir, but at least it's stable, so that's good. Our daily use is, again, around 5,500 cubic meters a day, so, and reservoirs are full, so we're in as good a spot as we can be with where we're at. The warm weather really hasn't changed much in there, and in fact, I was chatting with somebody yesterday, just kind of anecdotally, that they were actually out in the Kiskadna watershed snowmobiling along the river, and they said there's quite a bit of snow actually on the river itself, I guess just shaded enough and whatnot, so that's good, because there's no snow anywhere else. The only other thing I was going to touch on is a couple of staff changes in the project management. Joe Modishaw, who's been doing that the last number of years, done a great job for it. He is moved over to the water treatment plant and is going to be our manager out there, our utilities manager, I guess is what we call that. So he's going to take that role on. So it's a great opportunity for him and us. So today is his first day out there, so we wish him well. And Savane, our planner, is leaving us. She is going back to Ontario. She got an opportunity to work for Parks Canada and to play a role in the rebuilding of Jasper. So I can't really blame her for that opportunity. So that does sound exciting. So, yeah. But we will miss her. So we are actively looking for a replacement for her. So yeah, and actually to fill the hole left by Joe as well. So we'll have those out. Yeah, that's all I got for today.
Thanks, Kevin. Any comments? Yeah, questions? Yeah, lots of time. All right. Councillor Parslow.
Just a reflection. I always enjoy Kevin's reports. They're short, informative. And I know we're going to be looking at the consent calendar later on, and I'm just wondering if Kevin can teach his staff who write these long reports to give a short verbal report. It would save a lot of their time, provide us with interesting information, as long as they modeled it on Kevin's style. We could save them a lot of time and us a lot of reading.
Are you putting a motion for it that Kevin writes all the staff
No,
reports?
he trains them. There's a serious suggestion there. Because I had to be honest with Kevin that I had not been reading the staff reports in the consent thing. I just overlooked them. And I'm guilty of that. And I feel badly about that because staff put a lot of time in there. But I'm just suggesting we reconsider that. In light of the impeccable style of our staff there, I'm sure Ryan could manage to even present within the time that Kevin uses.
1 minute timer.
I'm sorry, but I am being serious a little bit as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Earl?
Yeah, I don't agree with any of that. I've been reading the reports. I think, and I noted to Kevin in our conversation, the one thing is having the this in the consent calendar as opposed to under committee of the whole maybe inhibits our ability to pose some follow-up questions because we now have to formally pull them out in order to discuss them. I do read the reports. I understand as part of my work as a counselor, the responsibility is mine to read reports that sometimes are a little long, but you know, that is as part of the oversight function we as counselors provide. So I did want to just interject with that. And I also appreciate Kevin's short and quick bullet points in the moment. But no, I do read the reports. I think the information contained therein is very valuable. And I think we might have to come up with a more expedient way for us to ask singular questions based on that, as opposed to pulling out an entire report and having a vote in the consent calendar. But otherwise, I think it's working good. Charlie notwithstanding, obviously. But
Thanks, Councillor. All right, thank you, everyone. Diary, nothing in the diary. And then we'll break for lunch. So, to the regular council meeting for Monday, January 27th, 2025. Next order of business was 14 consent calendar. I'd like a motion to lift under 3, 2024 fourth quarter department updates, A, administration update, and F, fire department update. So I'll make that motion. Can I get a second? Councillor Kempf. We'll call that to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. All right, so we'll start with A. We got Melissa from Communications here to give an update.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Hello.
So I thought that today I would give you a little bit of a verbal update on what the Communications Department has been focusing on over the past couple of months. I gave you a little brief synopsis in that department update report. So I thought that we would just start with the Start Something campaign, if that's okay. There we go. So the city marketing campaign was the capital project that was approved last January in 2024. We have now since named it officially as the Start Something campaign, which I'm sure most of you have seen through your emails and online and through social media. We just completed the soft launch of the campaign. So the soft launch was held from November 12th to December 8th in 2024. And about a week and a half ago, I got the analytics back from our media buyer with a little report of if we were successful or not. She said we blew it out of the water. Every expectation that they had for these ads and how they would perform and who would reach out to us, they were over the moon with the success of it. So that's a really good indication heading into the full launch of the campaign, which will happen in April. That lets us know that where we were targeting was correct, who we were targeting was correct, and then we can put our dollars best into those buckets to get a good return. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is that throughout the soft launch, those 4 weeks, we also received a lot of feedback from local organizations, business owners, and residents, thanking both city staff and council for choosing to market our city in a way that celebrates what we bring to the table. Some specifics that come to mind, I had a call from School District 59 who said, just thank you again and again. Can we use these marketing assets when we're looking for teachers? And I said, absolutely. I've been working closely with the now called Juniper Collective, but number of different faces on that team, but working closely with them through healthcare initiatives and attracting healthcare professionals. The thing about this campaign is that all of the ads feed the traffic through a new website. So startyoursomething.ca. This is where if somebody is interested in moving to Dawson Creek, they will complete that contact form online, and that goes directly to myself. and then I am delegating as I see fit. So I have a number of community members who are assisting me with specific questions and specific job postings. If someone is reaching out looking for healthcare positions, I can immediately connect them with somebody who can help. And that personal touch is everything. So we have already received over 25 inquiries, and that was just through that 4-week soft launch. 25 might not seem huge to everybody. I think it's huge to me. I first saw in the soft launch perhaps getting 5 inquiries. That was my goal. So very excited to see that. And as you can see, the website is there up on the screen. So the production team for this campaign will be visiting again in the next 2 weeks. And we will be gathering content for winter sports and activities. This is something where I think we tend to pretend that winter doesn't exist here. We haven't marketed it in the past. We tend to hide that we have snow, although it is not as much as we wish we had. We do have snow. And we have access to a ski hill that when I tell people how fast it is to get to our ski hill from downtown, they don't believe me. And I think we take that for granted. So that's what we will be covering when the production team comes up. We will also be interviewing a local physician, which we're really excited about. So that second video that will be developed for the April launch of the campaign will include even more healthcare components, and we'll be switching out some assets on the website, so you will see a different focus on there. Any questions about the Start Something campaign before I move on?
Just one on the spring one, or the winter one, are you going to showcase the Nordic Ski Club as well, like that facility up there, as well as the ski hill?
That's the plan. The plan would be to showcase cross-country skiing, snowmobiling, potentially outdoor skating, weather dependent, and snowshoeing, as well as downhill skiing. I still have to reach out to those organizations and line it up, but it should be easy to do.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. I'll just give another brief update about the communications department as a whole. So I've been in this role for just over a year now, and it's really evolved quickly and changed as we identified the communication needs across the organization. We discovered quickly that in order to unify our departments and ensure we are all sharing the same message, that I needed to be involved in as many projects as possible. So we thought we had a good guess about what this communications and engagement manager position would look like, but I think it has grown in a way that I'm really excited about. I spend a lot of my time assisting with projects, making sure that we're communicating well to the residents, that I assist with digital components, digital advertising, anywhere that I can, just to help elevate those projects and give them another level, which has been really interesting for myself. And then I just wanted to touch on, in the last communications department update, for those who may have not read it or missed it, we just replaced the coordinator on the community services side. So we now have a communications and marketing coordinator who assists myself. So we have a 2-person department. She has been doing a phenomenal job in her role. We first focused on redesigning and retemplating everything to do with the community services department marketing. So culture and recreation, their programs, and the aquatics programs and the swimming lessons. We're trying out a number of different ways to market these. And so far it's been going really great. I see lots of reduction in needing to cancel programs, which was, I think, a huge problem about 2 years ago, where if we didn't get enough people in a program, we had to cancel it before it even started. So that's something we've really been tackling on that side of things. And probably our next focus in the coordinator's role will be tourism as we go into building our marketing strategy. Any questions in general for the communications department?
Thank you, Melissa. Councillor McDonald?
Sorry, just out of curiosity, was that a brand new position, or was that just a lateral in the organization kind of deal?
It's a a little bit of a convoluted answer. So we we lost a long-term staff member last spring, and her position was almost I would say 3 positions in total. So that was Anna, who was the systems administrator and marketing coordinator, and it was much too large of a role to be able to handle the marketing. So that role was split, and we came away with a marketing coordinator, and then we took Anna's systems administrator tasks, and we divvied it up between other coordinators on Ryan's side of the department. Did you want to add to that, Ryan?
So essentially, we're just allocating, excuse me, allocating resources differently and putting it in buckets to align the organization to help assist with the messaging and the buckets that we're delivering in. So the position isn't new. It's a new position, but the resourcing of it has always been there. We've just aligned it under communications and marketing, and that person is really directing, I don't want to say majority of their time, but majority of their time is dedicated to the marketing and development of the socials of the community services programming and department and things, but also provide additional capacity on Melissa's side to ensure the broader perspective of a corporate communications plan, strategy, initiatives, et cetera, to provide depth within that part of the organization as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McDonald. Any other questions? Is Marcel here? Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Melissa. Appreciate the report, and yeah, and a lot that's been done in the year, and I know it's yeah, do a good job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Next on the consent calendar, we have Fire Chief Marcel Coppell. Welcome. How you doing today?
I'm good. You?
Good. Good. Thank you.
So I'll just kind of briefly go over some stats for the quarter and year end, and then I'll kind of discuss a little bit about the training center. So to start off, we had 184 calls for service for the last quarter, which gave us 783 calls for service for the year. So that's pretty similar to last year. Last year was a record-breaking year, and this was just a few under. So I guess on par, so it's possibly something that we're going to be seeing in the future, kind of at that number. Of course, kind of like the RCMP and ambulance and us, the lower the number, the better, but because it means there's less people in danger and having a bad day. So, but unfortunately, it looks like those numbers are kind of plateauing at the 800 mark. The fire prevention branch, along with fire crews, completed 258 inspections for the quarter. And so that gave us as a department 851 inspections for the year. And lastly, for training, our firefighters completed 438 hours of training for the quarter. And that gave a total of 1,899 hours for the year. So included in that number is 299 hours for the paid on calls. They come every Tuesday for 2 hours, so those numbers are included in that. So I guess the other thing I'd like to talk about, as you're all aware of, 24 was quite a busy year for large fires. Mm-hmm. We had 5 apartment fires, which in hindsight, I mean, we could have lost 5 huge buildings, excuse me, in the city. So I'm convinced that quick response and sound fireground operations is kind of what saved those. Basically contained to the rooms of origin or the area. So that was very good. We also had a couple, well, we had more than a couple, but we had a couple house fires where we pulled out citizens that were unconscious and kind of performed life-saving medical operations. So it was a busy year. We had a lot of big buildings, a lot of grass fires, a lot of calls, so it was a busy year. Currently, we are in the process of hiring. Next week, we will have written tests, physicals, and interviews for one position. We have a retirement coming up in April. So that process has started. We had quite a few applications, shortlisted to 20, and we'll kind of find out today what our last number will be. Probably looking at about 15 to 16 people might be coming in for that. Wow. So that's good. Yeah, so other than that, I know last council meeting you guys were talking about the training center, and so that's kind of the main reason I'm in, if there's any questions for that. I kind of put a little history, right, of how it all started. Obviously, it probably started before most of you were on council and also before I was in my role. And so there's always been the topic that, I mean, obviously it was started for the firefighters to be able to train, but obviously there was also a notion that possibly the city could make money by renting it out and having other departments come and train there. Unfortunately, it is very hard to do. Most professional fire departments have training grounds, and most are used just for them to train. So, for instance, Fort St. John just built one a few years after us as well. It's hard, like if you're a volunteer department, it's easier to bring, like there's only a couple that, excuse me, like Comox does it and the Justice Institute of BC do it, where a lot of people will go there for training. But it's hard when you're a paid department, because then all of a sudden your staff, you have to include those wages. You have to include getting people to come in on weekends off. We're a small department, so we don't have many choices. And so if everyone doesn't commit, it's hard, and people are busy on the weekends. It's very good for us because we get to use it. The building's already basically paid for, or well, you know what I mean? It was done a long time ago, so we don't have that expense right now. When I was going through live fire back 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 4 of us were sent out to Fort St. James. It's a volunteer department that other firefighters would go to. Whereas if we had our training facility, all of us wouldn't have to gone away. So we use it a lot. Obviously in the winter months it's tough, but it's very good for our department. Yeah, and it's tough to, so I should say another thing too is when I first became chief in 2021, at the time, the regional district protective service coordinator at that time approached me with an interest of possibly them purchasing it. And so we were all for it, as long as we could use it anytime we wanted, which they said we could. And then they'd be able to use it for the other departments, but then it fell through. He moved away and we had a new one come in, and it went to their board and they decided against it. But I mean, either or, for us to use it is great. Like our crews, there's so much, like I mentioned in the report, stuff that we can do that is feasible for us in that way, where we won't have to send anyone out. So like I said, I know it was brought up a couple weeks ago, so if any of you have any questions on the training center or anything else.
Okay. Perfect. Just before I open it up to council, I just want to thank you for coming in, and thank yourself and your team for all the work that you guys do to provide and contribute to the safety of our community. And it's pretty, when you look at the bigger picture and you look at like the 5 apartments you talked about, like, in the society that we live in today, like if we would have lost 5 apartments, like how much pressure that would put on our community, but also, by containing those 5 apartments to 1 unit, it's like the potential of lives that saved it's really priceless. So, I just really wanted to thank you and the team. We appreciate what you guys do every day. And
yeah, I appreciate it. I'll pass it along for sure.
Thank you. I'll open it up to council if there's any questions. Councillor Parslow.
Well, I don't want to pick Marcel's figures to pieces here, but 300 to 400 per firefighter to fly from presumably Fort St. John to Vancouver. That was 20 years ago. No, maybe not.
So you're saying that's low?
That's low.
Well,
Probably 1,000.
yeah, sometimes you can get it for that. We were just kind of playing the safe card. But yeah, like I know sometimes you get it for 250, sometimes 350, sometimes 450, but
Yeah,
yeah.
if you're lucky, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I assume the way you presented that was return airfare. And per diems, 600 for 2 firefighters for how many days? 4 days.
4 days.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'll back off that one.
Per day.
Yeah, on the very top there, with travel, it's 4 days.
So are you saying that the quality of live fire experience that they can get here at our fire training center is just as good as going to the Justice Institute for the basic and stuff? I mean, presumably for some more specialized things they have to go out for. Is that
Yeah,
fair
so to
assumption?
maintain our skills, we do a live fire every year where all the staff, all the firefighters come out and we do a full day of live fire. And that's to maintain our kind of prerequisites for the year. And we have to do a certain amount of training every year that we can do out there. To get, at the very beginning, say for a firefighter to get their 1001, which is their firefighting 3 to 4 month course, right? They obviously get all that before they become a firefighter, so it's not like they're coming here to get it because we don't, they go elsewhere. But what we have maintains our skills. And the good thing about what we have is if we wanted to put on a live fire course, so we've got our firefighters, when this first came, a bunch of them, but now, through attrition and stuff, some of them left, but a bunch of them have their tech course, their safety course, their instructor course that you would need to put on an event. So we do have firefighters that would be able to, which helps with us doing it within. But for the most part, too, if you need something, say to get your live fire 1 or your live fire 2, what I mentioned earlier that I went to Fort St. James, you could bring an instructor in here and say if a bunch of our guys needed, we don't need that because we all have it, but say there was refreshing on auto extrication or whatever, we could bring someone in here as opposed to sending out 16 firefighters down south. So it's just much cheaper that way. And it's so good because, like I mentioned in there's so many different aspects for training that we can do here that we don't have to go out. Like we can bring in an auto extrication expert, and we've got cars out there that, from the wreckers that we get taken there all the time, and we can practice on all that kind of stuff and then get certain certificates that way without having to leave. I know at the beginning it was kind of, and I don't know if you were on council.
I was on council.
Yeah.
And this was the report. The first of a number. We don't have it now. These guys are perfectly accurate in what they give us, right? But this was the report that was the first one where what was all the advantages, all the things that could happen just didn't materialize.
As far as
some of the problems you've identified, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not disagreeing with anything you've said.
Yeah.
But it made me think, well, gee, as a councillor, you better be careful. Check what you've been told, right? Because sometimes it's a different thing.
Well, I think it was definitely their intent. Like
to
I
be
said,
a training centre for the region.
I think that was their intent.
Yeah.
And then when it just got into it, because then all of a sudden contractual issues came into play, right? As far as the union, and it just, I think the
due
cost
diligence should have brought those things to the surface. But that's history. We're talking about something different now.
Yeah.
It's here, and you're saying it's continued value to the fire department.
I am, yeah.
Which is good enough for me.
Yeah, I believe it is. We use it a lot, and it enhances our skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great facility.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Kempf?
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Just one question. You had mentioned about a retirement and that you were had applicants. I'm just curious how many of those applicants are from the auxiliary, if any have applied?
One. So to apply, you have to have certain certificates and courses, and one on our paid on calls has it. There's some working towards it. You know, there's a couple that are thinking of going somewhere to get that program, but for now, we just have one.
Thanks, Councillor Kempf. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship, and good to see you, Chief. Thank you for making the time. Yeah, I mean, to the history that Councillor Parslow referred to, and it was prior to my time on council, but I remember a bit of it, and I think that his frustration was that the justification for the build initially was predicated upon a business case, which turned out not to be fully thought through or fully fleshed out.
Yeah.
But in that vein, obviously, if you guys see value in it, if you think it is ultimately a cost savings to the department, I think that's great. One question I posed to Kevin last time, and we were kind of ambiguous because, as you noted, you get into contracts and the collective agreement and what it can be used for. Is this something that anyone coming in to contract this facility to do some training, does that have to be overseen by city staff? Or if you had maybe a recently retired firefighter who was looking to keep himself busy and do a bit of contract work, would maybe he be able to oversee that component of the facility at reduced cost to the city without drawing resources away from the department?
I remember you brought that up before.
Yeah.
Before I answer that, I was looking in the files trying to find information about how this all started and when it started, and I did find the business case that you're talking about.
Okay.
So, and when I read through this, the business case was two. Like Councillor Parslow said, one was for the firefighters and one was for potentially bringing in more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's right in there.
It's in there. Okay, good.
But as far as what you just asked, it would be so, first of all, you can't just do it with one.
Okay.
Like you need about 4 or 5 to run it right. Like you got to have a couple techs, a safety officer, and at least 1 or 2 instructors. So it's quite a big operation, and that was part of the problem we were finding is when you're a small department like us where you have 16 firefighters, so you have 4 working, 4 on call. So whenever there's say a weekend course, you'd only have 8 firefighters to choose from. And so sometimes we could round up 4 or 5 firefighters. That wasn't the case. I mean, the problem was the expenses that came with it. So I just don't think, I mean, that's why it was a good idea when the regional district were thinking about possibly them taking it over, and then they would basically do it all. They'd find the instructors, they'd do all that, but our premise was, well, can we use it whenever we want? And it was, Blair Lexstrom was here at the time, and so he was for it. But it, like I said, it fell through. But yeah, but as far as it would, I just can't see it working with a retiree type thing just because you need so many.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious whether there was a third, avenue available to us that could, as I said, keep you guys using it as you see value in it, but also try and generate some revenue as indicated in the original business case. But if it's not doable, it's...
Well, I know when we first, so when Deputy Todd Pickett and myself first took over, there was a few departments that were kind of looking at it. And so then he's got the training on the side of his desk, so he was doing the training aspect of it, and he was and he spent many hours on putting something together, right, for these departments to come use it and trying to figure out. And then all of a sudden it would be like, I don't think we're interested now just because of the price. It's so hard to do, and then you put all the hours in. So that's why we see value for us. And now we understand, so the one fellow from the regional district that's not here no more, that it was his idea to try and do this. He mentioned to me that he was at one time working in the Okanagan, and one of the fire departments down there, I think it was Vernon or something, thought, well, we want to take this over. And after a couple of years, they went back to the regional district and said, it's not worth it. we want you guys to have it. It's not worth a paid department to do. And so we're kind of finding that as well, but we definitely love it for our use.
And what is the square footage of the site out there? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, I don't know the square footage. Have you ever been out there?
Driven by. I've never taken a tour through.
Well, yeah, I'd love to run any one of you through it. It's beautiful out there. All the stuff that we can do. It's like it's made of sea cans, and I don't know the total square footage of it, but it's fairly large. It's got different things you can do. Confined space. You can do, angle rappelling. It's got little areas where you can burn, and it fills it up with smoke. It's very good. We can do a lot of stuff out there. But yeah, I definitely
would be open. Paintball out there?
Yeah, well, we could try.
Ryan?
Thanks, Councillor.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, no, definitely that's something we can line up in the future. Whoever would like to come out there and look at it, that's a good idea.
Be great. Councillor Apollonio?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Fire Chief, for coming over and for the wonderful work that you are doing to the committee. And of course, thank you for last Christmas, the fire truck Christmas parade. But my individuals love it. They're so happy, but they looking for the Coke truck. So they missed the Coke truck last year. So
the Coke truck?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because the first year, there's a Coke truck.
And then last year it wasn't in it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, just not part of the question.
Were they giving out free refreshments?
Sorry, say it again.
Were they handing out refreshments?
Oh no, just a fire truck. Just a Coke truck. That's not part of the question. I remember, because I work with people with disability, and I think we got courses from you from the fire department, and I able to see that the CCANs at the airport. So we're able to train there, and it's really interesting. And how to put fire off or something like that. And then we went inside the CCANs. I think that's 7 years or 8 years ago. Are we still doing that? Or because that's interesting, that's really informative.
Not that, I don't really.
Or maybe my agency requested for it. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been since I've been in my role.
Okay, yeah.
So.
Yeah, because it was informative. It's really actual firefighting in a way, because we are trained by your efficient firemen. So how to put a fire, like in case using the extinguisher. Yep. Then after that, in case it's blown up, so how we can help our individuals to escape the fire. And of course, doing, like for example, we're living in a for example 2 level, 1 level or something. So
for escape routes and means of
something like that.
eaters,
So I saw the premises, but I was just only asking because it's really helpful to us.
Yeah, not to my knowledge, that kind of thing hasn't happened in the last 3-4 years. There is a lot of places that we can do it, especially for the city, like fire extinguisher training, the different departments, but we kind of have to be careful, say if other agencies would like us to do that, because there's certain, those types of businesses in the city that provide that. And then if they find out, it's just, we don't want to step on anyone's toes, taking away business and that kind of things. But we definitely provide that to the city staff and anyone we can. But as far as what you're talking about, I haven't seen that lately.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Apollonio. Well, thank you very much for taking the time, and
Okay, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Appreciate it. Have a nice day.
All the best for the boys over there.
Yeah. All right, next order of business. Can I get a motion to accept the consent calendar? Councillor Kemp, second. Councillor Sudnick. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next order of business, 15 media questions. There's no media. 16, recess to close meeting. 16.1, resolution to move into the meeting of council closed to the public. Agenda item 2.1, section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expiration of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. And 92B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and a provincial government. Agenda item 6.11, 6.1.1, section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality. Agenda item 6.1.2 and 6.1.3, section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of the council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality if they were held in public. Councillor Earl, second. Councillor Kemp. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. We'll be as quick as we can because we got somebody waiting for us, and so